Chapter 1921. Helplessly, Stephen could only call Chun Zhao. Chun, something happened at home. What? Just now when Sannel came back, she ran into Raymond and fainted. Then take her to the hospital. Why are you calling me? Raymond seems to be angry at me. I misunderstood him. Okay, I'll go now. When Chun Zhao arrived at Stephen's house, Raymond came out. Master, take me back. I hate this old human man. Chun Zhao shrugged helplessly. Okay. Stephen hurriedly ran out. Chun, you're here. How's your granddaughter? She just fainted. Take me to see her. Raymond, he's angry. Then help me explain. Explain my ass. It's already a misunderstanding. Raymond had always been petty. Explanations were useless against him. If not for Chun Zhao restraining him, Raymond would probably have torn Stephen apart. After all, Raymond was a demon, and one that could distinguish between gratitude and grudges. What do we do now? I'll take Raymond back. Stephen was also helpless, but he still felt somewhat guilty. Take me to see your granddaughter. Chun Zhao entered the room and checked on Sannel. She was fine. She was just scared. Fainting was a human self-protection mechanism. Excessive psychological and physiological reactions would cause the brain to temporarily seal itself, which was fainting. It's nothing. She'll wake up after a nap. And then what? How do I explain to Sannel later? Just say that she fainted from anemia and had hallucinations. There's nothing hard to explain, Chun Zhao said matter-of-factly. That's true. Stephen nodded. Chun, apologize to Raymond for me. I misunderstood him. Apologize yourself. I can't do anything about it. How can someone else apologize for you? What does Raymond like to eat? This can't be made up for with food. Raymond's pride is hurt. Stephen felt more and more guilty. He wanted to do something to make up for Raymond's hurt. Chun Zhao brought Raymond back. Ah! Sannel screamed as soon as she woke up. But when she opened her eyes, she saw Stephen and Daly Moore standing by her window. Grandpa, Mom. A snake, a very big snake. Sunir exclaimed. What snake? I saw it. I really saw it. A very, very big snake. What snake? Sannel, are you hallucinating? The doctor came just now and said you're in a coma due to anemia, Daly Moore said. Illusion? Is it an illusion? Sannel looked at Stephen in surprise. Yeah, I don't have any snakes here, Stephen said with certainty. Was it really an illusion? Sannel heard Stephen and Dahlia Moore's replies. He was also a little unsure. After all, the giant snake in her mind was too exaggerated. Normally speaking, it was impossible for such a huge snake to exist. Therefore, Stephen and Daly Moore's explanation made more sense. However, when he was unconscious, how could he have such a hallucination? Moreover, his body had always been very healthy. How did he suddenly become anemic? But Sangner didn't think too much about it. Rest well. Stephen and Dahlia Moore left the room. Dahlia Moore, is Sannel okay? She's fine. She's just scared. What can happen to her? I was worried that she'd be like you. How can there be such a coincidence? Dahlia Moore shook her head. That's good. Otherwise, it'll be troublesome. It's not troublesome. I can solve it myself now. Plus, I know my kind. Plus, even if my friend and I can't solve it, there's still Chun. There's nothing he can't solve. Is Chun stronger than you and your friend? There's no comparison. Dahlia Moore had never seen Chun Zhao fight with his full strength, but not Singer had seen him before. She'd even told her about Chun Zhao's terrifying side. Stephen, on the other hand, was just an ordinary person, so he didn't have any concept of strength. But Stephen had seen Chun Zhao fight before. That was the only time he'd experienced a supernatural event. Stephen still had a deep impression of it. Basically, as long as it's a supernatural event, Chun can solve it. Is Chun that strong? My friend said that there's almost no one in the world who can beat Chun. Then he should go boxing. He can definitely become a boxing superstar. No, I think he has a student who's a boxer. Dahlia Moore felt like she was playing the piano to a cow. Stephen couldn't understand at all. Boxing? All the boxers combined couldn't even compare to one of Chun Zhao's fingers. Nagasaka Reiko enjoyed the scenery along the way. It was her first time in Los Angeles. Before coming, her grandmother, Yoko Hikari, had reminded her many times. She had to maintain a good relationship with Chun Zhao. This would determine whether she could successfully take over the position of the Witch of Tokyo Grand Shrine in the future. Nagasaka Reiko had also seen Chen Zhao's most terrifying side. She was one of the few people who'd witnessed and survived the battle between Chen Zhao and Tamamo Mei. After passing the coastal highway, a gorgeous manor built on a cliff appeared before them. When the car arrived at Mingyue Villa, Nagasaka Reiko alighted. Nagaka Reiko entered Mingyue Villa and saw Chen Zhao and the children playing around. Nagasaka Reiko saw a huge head in the courtyard. It was clearly the head of a dragon. "Hello, Mr. Chen." "Yes, hello. Nice to meet you, Ms. Reiko." Chen Zhao nodded. "I just arrived in Los Angeles today, so I came to greet you as soon as possible. Don't be so polite. I'm not used to it. What plans do you have next?" Chen Zhao looked at Nagasaka Reiko. He was not used to Nagasaka Reiko's politeness. Nagasaka Reiko had too many etiquettes. The moment she found Chen Zhao, she knelt on the ground and kowtowed to him. "I'm planning to go through the enrollment procedures at UCLA," Nagasaka Reiko said respectfully. "Also, I hope to become a part of the supernatural organization. Even if it's just an internship, it's fine. Please allow me, Mr. Chun." "Sure. But the people from the organization have all gone to Africa, so there's no one at the headquarters now. Find a place to live first, and focus on the enrollment procedures. When the people from the organization come back, I'll arrange for you to join the organization." "Yes, Mr. Chun. I think you've just arrived in Los Angeles and have many things to do, so I won't keep you here." Chapter 1922. "Yes, Mr. Chun. I will follow all your orders." Nagasaka Reiko knelt before Chen Zhao and bowed. Chen Zhao rubbed his forehead. He really couldn't accept Japanese etiquette. It was as if this was the only way they could talk properly. Before he left Japan, he promised Yoko White that he would take care of Nagasaka Reiko. One of the most important reasons was Dongya Tianshi. In the past, Higashino Tianshi had been taken care of by Yoko Baina. Dongya Tianshi was one of his people, so it was only right for him to return the favor. It was also human nature for him to take care of Nagasaka Reiko. Before Nagasaka Reiko could leave Mingyue Villa, Wang He arrived. When Nagasaka Reiko saw Wang He, she was stunned for a moment before bowing to Wang He. "Hello, Crane Lord." Wang He's current reputation in Asia had far surpassed that of Europe and America. Especially among the youths, she had become an iconic star. Of course, Nagasaka Reiko also knew Wang He. Wang He was also stunned for a moment, even though Nagasaka Reiko spoke in English. However, her posture made it obvious where she came from. "Can I have your autograph?" Okay." Wang He gave Nagasaka Reiko an autograph. After all, Nagasaka Reiko had appeared in Mingyue Villa. She must know Chen Zhao. Wang He turned around and looked at Chen Zhao. "Crane Lord, are you here to see Mr. Chen?" "Yes, Mr. Chen and I are old acquaintances." "Then I won't bother you anymore. Goodbye." Nagasaka Reiko bowed, and Wang He followed suit and bowed. He didn't know how to return the gesture. Most of the countrymen could not accept the Japanese etiquette. Wang He brought Xiao Lu to Chen Zhao. "Hello, Mr. Chen. All right, let's sit down and talk." At this moment, Xiao Lu was shocked by the magnificence of the Mingyue Villa. In China, except for the area around Xiangjiang, it was basically impossible to see a manor of this scale in the mainland. Especially in such a position, Xiao Lu was very reserved. He didn't know whether to stand or sit. "Xiao Lu, bring the present for Mr. Chen." Chen Zhao glanced at the gift Lu was holding. "Put it down. It's really heavy. What would you like to drink?" "Coke." "Lu, don't tell Nanjia." This was not the first time Wang He had met Chen Zhao, nor was it his first time at Mingyue Villa. Therefore, relatively speaking, it was much easier. "Back home, all my food and drink are restricted," Wang He said with a smile. "This is the price of being a star. Didi, help me get a few bottles of Coke. I'm quite envious of you. Everywhere you go, there are flowers and applause." "I envy you too, Mr. Chen." "All right, enough with the pleasantries. Did you change your assistant? I've never seen him before." Chen Zhao looked at Lu. "Mr. Chen, nice to meet you. I'm Lu Yiming, Brother Wang's new agent." Xiao Lu was also someone who had seen the world. He had been in the industry for a long time. He had also accumulated a certain amount of connections, coupled with excellent workability. It was because of this that he was able to snatch the opportunity to become Wang He's manager. He had also met some big bosses. Of course, this was the first time he had the opportunity to meet such a top tycoon face to face. There was no chance for him to talk to such a tycoon in China. After all, he was in the entertainment industry. The biggest boss in the entertainment industry was not considered a top tycoon. Not to mention a small fry like him. There were many people in the entertainment industry who had more connections and skills than him. At most, he had a bit of fame in the industry. Therefore, he did not dare to be careless when facing Chen Zhao, nor did he dare to put on airs and think too highly of himself. That young lady earlier is a Japanese? Yes, a relative's child. Mr. Chen, you have Japanese blood. You're the one with Japanese blood. Your whole family is Japanese. Chen Zhao scolded immediately. Wang He smiled awkwardly. The more Chen Zhao scolded him, the more he felt fine. Mr. Chen, where's Ms. Gaia? Oh, she went to Africa, Chen Zhao said. Is there any new movie? I'm waiting for Mr. Chen to invest. Wang He replied, smiling. I'm just playing. God knows when the next movie will be. If you wait for me to invest in a new movie, don't even think about it for the rest of your life. Wang He chuckled. He also knew that Chen Zhao could not invest in every movie. Compared to when they first met, Wang He was much more mature now. Whether it was his speech, behavior, or expression, he could be calm. He no longer showed his emotions on his face like before. His conversation with Chen Zhao was more like a conversation between friends. Mr. Chen, are you going to the movie celebration party? I won't go. I hate those kinds of occasions the most. It's too troublesome. Chen Zhao shook his head. I want to be as carefree as you, Mr. Chen. But Wang He also knew that it was impossible. After all, he was an artist, no matter how high his status was. He had to be respectful to investors, sponsors, and even directors and assistant directors. Mr. Chen, when are you coming back? I don't have any plans for now. Wang He was not the first person to say this. But Chen Zhao did not know what he would do after returning. There were only a few people he had contact with in China, such as his university teachers. He would only say good wishes to his teachers during holidays. As for his classmates or friends, he had basically lost contact with them. He did not even visit his relatives in China. Why would he go back? Therefore, Chen Zhao basically gave up on the idea of returning. Wang He and Chen Zhao chatted for an hour. They were basically talking about the changes in China. Wang He had always thought that Chen Zhao had been abroad for more than 10 years. In reality, Chen Zhao had only been abroad for a little more than 2 years. There would not be any drastic changes in China. Chen Zhao did not correct Wang He's thoughts. The two had a good chat. Then, Wang He said goodbye and left. Chen Zhao glanced at the time. He had not called Xian Li and the others today. It should be around 9 at night in England. Chen Zhao called Xian Li. Xian Li, are you still in Edinburgh? Uncle, we're in London now. Our next stop is Denmark's capital, Copenhagen. Oh, have a good time. Uncle, we're not playing. We're exploring. Xian Li corrected him immediately. Okay, I was wrong. I hope your exploration goes well. Xian Li still did not know that Chen Zhao had interfered when she was injured last time. She thought that she had hidden it perfectly, and that Ruan Faxi and the others had cooperated well too. Her explanation to Chen Zhao was that she had lost her phone for the past 2 days, so she had not called him. Chapter 1923. Chen Zhao took out the stone that he'd gotten from Edinburgh. This stone had fused with the king of monsters, the 100-headed snake. The stone was very big. The longest part was about 40 meters long, and the smallest part was 20 meters. It was almost oval. It weighed more than 1,000 tons. Even the 100-headed snake couldn't move it. Chen Zhao had been studying the stone's texture over the past few days, but he didn't get any results. Yang Guo had said that he could feel the life force contained in the stone. He'd already sent the small stone back to Dragon Tiger Mountain. Chen Zhao couldn't feel the life force in it, but he'd seen it in his battle with the 100-headed snake. No matter how many heads Chen Zhao cut off, he could always regrow them. Even Chen Zhao couldn't compare to its surging life force. Other than those that could crush Chen Zhao with a finger, the 100-headed snake's life force was the strongest he'd ever seen. It was closest to being immortal. Even with the black trident, Chen Zhao had to stab the place where the 100-headed snake was connected to the stone to kill it. Chen Zhao suddenly thought of something. Satan's blood was pure destruction, while this stone was pure life force. If they collided, who would be left behind? Satan's blood was the most domineering thing Chen Zhao had ever seen. Except for Chen Zhao's black trident. When Old Turtle ascended, he'd fused his inner core, which was transformed from immortal power, into the black trident. Therefore, it wasn't an exaggeration to call it an immortal weapon. Satan's blood was even more domineering. Anyone below the Demon King level would die with one touch. Chen Zhao would need hundreds or even thousands of years to absorb the power in Satan's blood. Therefore, Chen Zhao was thinking that if there was something that could neutralize Satan's blood, would it be easier for him to absorb it? But how to fuse it was another problem. Should he release Satan's blood directly from the bottle? Just the destructive power of Satan's blood alone was enough to destroy Chen Zhao's Mingyue Villa and all the living things within 100 miles. Of course, Chen Zhao could use a cool spell to absorb the power of Satan's blood in advance. But then, Satan's blood would become a one-time weapon. Chen Zhao couldn't absorb it for his own power. He could only use it as a weapon. Therefore, the idea of using Satan's blood to fuse with this stone was obviously not feasible. He wanted to see if his immortal energy would react to it. Chen Zhao tried to send his immortal power into the stone, but there was no reaction. Chen Zhao touched the rough surface with his palm. The material of this stone was very hard. However, it was not indestructible. Chen Zhao thought of the 100-headed snake. It could fuse with rocks. Furthermore, he could absorb the life force within it. However, that kind of fusion was clearly not what Chen Zhao wanted. He didn't want his body to grow on a rock. Chen Zhao thought of a solution, a very old-fashioned one. Eat stones. Chen Zhao broke a stone off the boulder and put it in his mouth to chew. Of course, the taste was not good, very bad. Chen Zhao finished it in one bite. His mouth was already dry, so he had to drink it with water. Useful? He realized that his digestive system was absorbing the life force in the stone. But isn't this absorption and digestion speed a little too slow? Not only was it a problem of low efficiency, but the utilization rate was also very low. If it is taken orally in this manner, even if Chen Zhao ate day and night, it would take him more than a decade to finish over 1,000 tons of stones. By then, even if Chen Zhao didn't get stones, his teeth would fall out. Moreover, there was an 80% to 90% chance that this method would also waste the vitality within. Would Chen Zhao have to absorb it a second time? Just thinking about it was disgusting. So taking it orally was clearly the stupidest method. There had to be a more efficient way. Chen Zhao thought of another problem. Why could it be absorbed in his stomach? Was it stomach acid? Or was it just liquid? Chen Zhao thought about it and decided to do an experiment. He soaked the stones in fresh water, seawater, and vinegar. He wanted to see how the three reacted to the stones. After 20 minutes of soaking, Chen Zhao observed the three separately. They all seemed to have similar effects. Then, Chen Zhao drank the liquid that had soaked the stones. Seawater had the worst effect. Chen Zhao absorbed very little life force, less than 20%. Fresh water had the best effect. It could absorb about 80% of the liquid's life force. Vinegar was average. It could absorb about 50% of the liquid's life force. However, vinegar dissolved the stones the fastest. This was understandable. After all, acid was the most corrosive substance in nature. Chen Zhao thought about it. Even if he soaked it in fresh water, it would probably take decades to completely dissolve such a large stone. Just then Zhang Tianyi called. Chen Zhao, how have you been? Nothing much. Why are you so angry? Who made you unhappy this time? Nothing, what's up? Can't I call you to greet you for no reason? Alright, are you done greeting them? You must have taken the wrong medicine, Zhang Tianyi said frivolously. Tell me what's up. Zhang Tianyi could hear Chen Zhao's impatience and immediately returned to the topic. Okay, do you still have the stones you asked Yang Guo to send? Yes. Chen Zhao's heart skipped a beat, but his tone remained calm. Give me some more. No more. Chen Zhao, can we be more sincere? You want them all the time? Do you think there's a lot of them? I only have a little myself. From the marks on the stone you gave me, it's definitely from a very large stone. It's at least dozens of kilograms. I don't want a lot. Just give me half. Ah, Chen Zhao sneered. Tell me your conditions, Zhang Tianyi said dejectedly. This stone contains a lot of vitality, right? Chen Zhao asked. Hearing this, Zhang Tianyi was even more dejected. Since Chen Zhao already knew, he couldn't ask for too low a price. Cut the crap. Tell me your conditions. What do they call them in the spiritual world? Chen Zhao asked. In China, they call them primordial stones. In Europe and America, they call them life stones. How do you usually absorb primordial stones? Chen Zhao asked. That's difficult. Sorry for disturbing. Chen Zhao hung up. A while later, Zhang Tianyi called again. How can you be like this? You hang up the moment you don't agree with me. It's because you're not honest at all. Fine, let's be honest. First, tell me how many primordial stones you have. Around 100 kilograms, Chen Zhao said. Based on your cunning personality, that means you have at least 200 kilograms. 9 Heavens Divine Emperor. Chapter 1924. Chen Zhao and Zhang Tianyi weren't actually close. More accurately, they'd only met twice. The first time was when 23rd generation Blood Mary brought him to Moon Villa. They'd had an exchange of magic, dharma, and enlightenment. The other time was when he was in Dongying, so they weren't close. But Chen Zhao felt that they should be. Zhang Tianyi was a charismatic person. It was hard for people to distance themselves from him. His casual and carefree attitude made Chen Zhao feel comfortable. Of course, just because Chen Zhao liked Zhang Tianyi, didn't mean he'd give it to him for free. Old Zhang, let's be honest. Why did you take the primordial stones? Nonsense, Zhang Tianyi said matter-of-factly. With such dense vitality, of course I use it to extend my lifespan. Does Dragon Tiger Mountain have some secret technique that can absorb the vitality of primordial stones? This secret technique is a secret of our Longhu Mountain. Name your price. Zhang Tianyi could speak to Chen Zhao so calmly. This meant that it was on the trade list. I want 50 kilograms, Zhang Tianyi said. Zhang Tianyi said, don't be in a hurry to bargain. 50 kilograms of primordial stones can increase my lifespan by almost 10 years. I know that you have at least 200 kilograms of primordial stones in your hands. I only want a quarter of your lifespan. It's not too much. If you rely on primordial stones, you can at most increase your lifespan by 30 years. You can only strengthen your body, but it can't achieve the effect of increasing your lifespan. More than 30 years and it won't work? Hearing that, Zhang Tianyi immediately yelled. Great, you really have more primordial stones. It's none of your business, Chen Zhao said straightforwardly. I'll agree to 50 kilograms. Don't even think about more. How much do you have? None of your business. Tell me how much you have. Not much. Tell me the truth. How much do you have? Around 300 kilograms. Really? Really more real than pearls. Give me 150 kilograms, Zhang Tianyi said. No, you want half at once. Don't even think about it. Definitely more than 300 kilograms. You definitely have more. I really didn't. Chen Zhao wouldn't admit it no matter what. Chen Zhao, you're still young. You can't understand my fear of death. I don't have much time left. I really didn't. Give me 150 kilograms. You keep another 150 kilograms. More is useless. You said that this can increase the strength of the body. This kind of treasure should be used to increase one's lifespan, not to strengthen one's physical body. Moreover, with the strength of your current physical body, no matter how many primordial stones you have, it won't have much effect on you. I can let my family use it. Hee. In this world, other than you, me, and Blood Mary, no one else can use it. Why? For those who are powerful enough, it's a treasure. For those who aren't, it's a deadly poison. How about this? Give me 150 kilograms, and I'll tell you how to increase your lifespan and strengthen your body. Chen Zhao thought for a while and answered, sure. It's very simple. Fuse the origin stone with the small world. The small world can naturally absorb the life force within the primordial stone. That's simple. That's simple, Zhang Tianyi said with certainty. You tricked me of 150 kilograms of primordial stones for such a simple answer? What do you mean by tricking? It's a fair trade. If I figure it out myself, I can figure it out too, Chen Zhao said, gritting his teeth. But you haven't figured it out yet. You said that this is a secret technique of Dragon Tiger Mountain. Yes. It's simple, but it's indeed a secret technique. Zhang Tianyi answered shamelessly. Oh right. This method can only be used once. After that, it can't be used again. What do you mean it can't be used again? Once the small world fuses with the primordial stone once, it can't be fused a second time. Zhang Tianyi paused. Actually, the small world can fuse with everything in the world. Similarly, there's only one chance. What do you mean by fusing? Your small world has no element, right? Chen Zhao didn't deny it. To Zhang Tianyi, this wasn't a secret. Yes. Everyone's small world has no element at the beginning. Apart from replenishing near-infinite magical power, it has no other use. However, it can be fused with some special power or some treasure to give your small world a special element, Zhang Tianyi said. Zhang Tianyi said, You've met some enemies who have the power to call the wind and summon the rain, right? Their small world has a special attribute. Chen Zhao nodded subconsciously. Indeed. He'd met some enemies who were clearly weaker than him. However, they had the power to summon wind and rain. So what they lacked was the small world's element. Has your small world never fused with other things? Chen Zhao asked curiously. No, I don't need it. I'm strong enough now. Nothing or anyone can threaten me. Also, in the past few decades, there's nothing worth fusing with. So even if it's a small world with no element, I have absolute power. I'm pissed off by your tone. Let's fight. I can't be bothered with you. Do you want to argue with me or listen to my explanation? Fine, continue. The benefit of fusing with the primordial stone is to increase your lifespan and strengthen your physical strength at the same time. But it will also make you lose the opportunity to obtain other attributes in the future. Zhang Tianyi said, The use of the small world is actually more mysterious and complicated than you think. If it was just increasing his lifespan, Chen Zhao might not be tempted. However, Chen Zhao didn't just have a few primordial stones now. He had more than 1,000 tons. Chen Zhao was very tempted. He could use the stones to strengthen his body. This wasn't an unacceptable condition. Moreover, Chen Zhao didn't need other elements. For example, Chen Zhao's second small world lightning storm. The effects of lightning storm were shocking. However, it wasn't that useful against someone of the same level. It was even useless. The first owner of lightning storm had used it against Chen Zhao, but it didn't seem to have any effect. What steps do I need to fuse with the stones? Or some secret technique? No. Go figure it out yourself. It's not difficult for you. Okay. If there's nothing else, I'm hanging up. Okay. As soon as Chen Zhao hung up, Mary, the 23rd generation's blood called. Chen Zhao's heart skipped a beat. Zhang Tianyi, that old bastard, really didn't keep his mouth shut. Mr. Chen, do you know why I'm calling you? Not really. 150 kilograms of primordial stones. Name your conditions. Chapter 1925. Blood Mary, you know the value of the stone, right? I know. That's why I want you to name your price. To the 23rd Blood Mary, what did the stone represent? As an old person who knew her destiny, the last thing she wanted to face was time. The 23rd generation Blood Mary thought that she could face death calmly. But when she found out that Chen Zhao had the stone, her heart, which had already been dead silent, began to stir again. Chen Zhao cursed Zhang Tianyi. What can you give me? Chen Zhao asked. Chen Zhao knew the value, and so did 23rd Blood Mary. Chen Zhao had to make sure that he could get the most out of it. He didn't need to think about the ways of the world anymore. The ways of the world couldn't compare to the stone's value, especially to the 23rd Blood Mary. It was a life-saving treasure. It wasn't more valuable than the stone in the entire world. She could give up everything for this mixed essence stone. Of course, she had to give something that could move Chen Zhao. After all, Chen Zhao wasn't someone she could mess around with. The 23rd Blood Mary was silent for a long time. Chen Zhao patiently waited for Mary's reply on the other end of the phone. It wasn't an easy decision. The 23rd Blood Mary had a lot of collections. There were even things more precious than the mixed essence stone. The Scarlet Church had accumulated over 1,000 years. But there weren't many things that could make the 23rd Blood Mary take out for a trade. After a few minutes, the 23rd Blood Mary finally spoke. I can give you a piece of information. A piece of information? Are you sure? Chen Zhao didn't think that a piece of information could make him pay the stone. Your cultivation is higher than mine and old Zhang's. The 23rd Blood Mary said with certainty. Your lifespan is definitely not low, so the stone's greatest effect might not be attractive to you. Chen Zhao was silent. He didn't admit or deny it. No matter what she said, she couldn't deny the stone's value. So for you, the greatest effect of the primordial stone is to strengthen your body. However, the effect of the primordial stone on strengthening your body is far less obvious than increasing your lifespan. The 23rd Blood Mary's tone gradually calmed down. It seemed that she calmed down. Her words were orderly. The information I can give you is about the legendary golden apple tree. Golden apple tree? That's right. Isn't your adopted daughter looking for the golden apple? I know where the golden apple tree is, the 23rd Blood Mary said. Since you know where the golden apple tree is, why don't you go get it? The golden apple tree is in the legendary sacred garden, and there is a god guarding the sacred garden. That god is the legendary Hercules, the illegitimate child of Zeus and Alcmene, said Mary. You're not kidding me, are you? No, I'm not joking. The 23rd Blood Mary said seriously. Also, the golden apple that your adopted daughter is looking for is pointing to the holy garden. In other words, even without your guidance, my adopted daughter might be able to find it on her own? Anyone who enters the holy garden will be killed. If I didn't warn you, are you sure your adopted daughter would have survived? After all, they are about to face a true god. Fine. Chen Zhao had to admit it. The 23rd Blood Mary's words had indeed helped him avert a tragedy. Also, the golden apple has endless power. It can give you the power you need. In other words, the golden apple will give you whatever magic element you have. So in comparison, the golden apple tree is more valuable than the primordial stone. The 23rd Blood Mary said. Also, the golden apple tree only bears 3 fruits each time. It only bears fruit once every 1,000 years. You only provided me with information. You didn't bring the golden apple tree to my house. So I only want your primordial stone. I don't want you to pay more. Chen Zhao took a deep breath. Fine, I agree to this deal. Tomorrow, Zhang Tianyi and I will go to your place, the 23rd Blood Mary said. Both the 23rd generation Blood Mary and Zhang Tianyi attached great importance to this. More seriously than anything else. They even wanted to show up personally. Chen Zhao thought for a moment, and suddenly thought of a question. Have you seen Hercules? He asked. Blood Mary of the 23rd generation knew ancient Greek, and her space magic was compiled in ancient Greek. So, Chen Zhao suspected that the 23rd Blood Mary had come into contact with an existence from ancient Greek legends. Yes, I've entered the Holy Garden, the 23rd Blood Mary said without hesitation. I thought I was strong enough. Even if I couldn't defeat Hercules, I could at least protect myself. But I still underestimated the power of the legendary gods. Since they were going to cooperate, the 23rd Blood Mary naturally had to show her sincerity. So she planned to tell Chen Zhao everything. That was a despairing existence. With just one attack destroyed my little world. It took me several years to rebuild my little world. But it wasn't like I didn't gain anything. I found a spatial magic book in the Holy Garden. Although it couldn't compare to the golden apple, at least it made up for my loss. How did you escape from Hercules? The difference in power is so huge. I really can't think of how you escaped. If it was Chen Zhao, he wouldn't let the 23rd Blood Mary escape if he started a war with her. I'm old, so I treasure my life a lot more, the 23rd Blood Mary said. The 23rd Blood Mary said, I did not confront Hercules directly. With the secret method, I was able to escape unscathed from Hercules. I should be the only human who could escape from him after entering the sacred garden. Being able to escape from the hands of a true god was a great achievement for the 23rd generation Blood Mary. Chen Zhao didn't know what he was feeling right now. A god? Was he finally lucky enough to face a real god? Moreover, the legendary Hercules was also known for his endless power. He seemed to have the same element as Chen Zhao. He didn't know if he could fight Hercules. Even Chen Zhao wasn't confident. The 23rd Blood Mary didn't tell Chen Zhao the location of the Holy Garden. After all, she hadn't gotten the primordial stone yet. She didn't want to take the risk. After all, the stone was too important to her. Chapter 1926. Zhang Tianyi and the 23rd generation Blood Mary both took a day to get to Los Angeles. Chen Zhao also divided the origin stones and gave them to them. Zhang Tianyi started checking in front of Chen Zhao. Old Zhang, your actions clearly show that you don't trust me. We're not that close. Zhang Tianyi rolled his eyes. Zhang Tianyi and the 23rd Blood Mary didn't tell anyone about this. They didn't even tell their subordinates or disciples. After all, the primordial stone was too important to them. Even if the others couldn't use the mixed essence stone. But who didn't want to live for 30 years? If this matter were to spread, they would never have a day of peace. Chen Zhao would never have a day of peace either. This matter would remain a secret forever. Even when they came to Los Angeles, they were very secretive. After the two old men and old women checked, they confirmed that the primordial stones were correct, and the number was correct. Old Zhang, how is this mixed energy stone made? Chen Zhao asked curiously. Nonsense, how would I know? If I knew, I would have produced them in bulk. Zhang Tianyi rolled his eyes. There are too many treasures of heaven and earth with unknown origins in this world. Who has the time to think about their origins? I occasionally find primordial origin stones in Europe. The 23rd Blood Mary said. They're all from the Warcraft battlefield from hundreds of years ago, or even older. So people speculate that the primordial stones are the fossils of Warcraft beasts. Chen Zhao, you must have more primordial stones, right? No, I really don't, Chen Zhao said helplessly. Anyway, Chen Zhao had decided to play dumb until the end. He absolutely could not admit that he still had a lot. Zhang Tianyi and 23rd didn't believe him. However, they still felt that even if Chen Zhao had more, there wouldn't be many. After all, this thing was precious. Even if he could find primordial stones on a normal day, it would be 1 or 2 kilograms at most. Those who need it are eager, and those who don't need it are discarded. Of course, those people couldn't fuse with the small world like Zhang Tianyi, the 23rd generation, and Chen Zhao. They could also think of other ways. Although he was not as efficient as the three of them. However, everyone longed to enjoy a longer lifespan. Zhang Tianyi and the 23rd generation were very happy. Especially the 23rd generation. She was prepared to face the end of her life. Who would have thought that he would be able to escape from death's door? Chen Zhao had actually found the origin stone. Moreover, it could be said to be a very large number of primordial stones. Chen Zhao, where did you get this stone? I fished it out of the sea, Chen Zhao answered casually. You guys merge with the primordial stone here. I want to see the process. I also don't know how to do it. Old Zhang, take this opportunity to demonstrate it to us, said Xi. Zhang Tianyi knew that if he didn't demonstrate it on the spot, he wouldn't be able to leave. To a certain extent, Chen Zhao and the 23rd generation were both unreasonable. Zhang Tianyi pursed his lips. It's not a difficult task. Just watch. Zhang Tianyi demonstrated the process of fusing the primordial stone in front of the two of them. Chen Zhao and the 23rd generation protected Zhang Tianyi. Zhang Tianyi held the primordial stone in his hands, and the power of his little heaven and earth began to seep into the primordial stone. Chen Zhao and 23rd observed every detail. Zhang Tianyi was caught off guard. He wholeheartedly devoted himself to the fusion process. With every bit of penetration, the primordial stone would peel off a layer of stone shell. These stone shells had already lost most of their vitality. With a light touch, it dissipated. However, there was still a very thin amount of vitality left. The entire process only took a dozen minutes. Zhang Tianyi finished the fusion. Zhang Tianyi was completely energized. His white hair turned black too. It was as if he'd become 10 years younger. The 23rd generation was the most excited. Zhang Tianyi had indeed become younger. Don't take the primordial stone powder away. It's mine too. Chen Zhao grabbed a handful of the powder. What's this for? It's good for medicine too. Zhang Tianyi carefully put away all the powder. After a few thousand years, It can gather into a primordial stone again. Chen Zhao's face twitched. A few thousand years? Who would have a few thousand years? But after hearing Zhang Tiany's words, Chen Zhao thought of his super primordial stone. England had once been called the Island of Monsters. Could the super primordial stone be formed from the remains of monsters? After all, humans had killed all the monsters in order to rule England. No one could say for sure how many they'd killed. Zhang Tiany took out a knife and cut a hole in the middle of his palm. The wound on his palm quickly healed. What a powerful recovery ability! 23rd generation gasped in amazement. It's really effective. Zhang Tiany was also very satisfied. But Chen Zhao was secretly disdainful. He didn't need the life force in the primordial stone to have such strong recovery. Of course, this was mainly because his cultivation was all in his body. How do I make medicine? Chen Zhao asked. You don't even know the basics, Zhang Tiany said disdainfully, glancing at Chen Zhao. There's no point in telling you. Let's spar. Chen Zhao was instantly enraged. Whatever. I'll have my disciple give you a recipe later. Then 23rd generation also started the fusion. At their level, as long as the user didn't purposely hide, the casting process wouldn't escape their eyes. The 23rd generation also took only 10 minutes to complete the fusion process. The two looked at Chen Zhao. Chen Zhao shrugged. Why are you looking at me? Aren't you going to do it now? I don't have any more primordial stones. Chen Zhao didn't want to take out the super primordial stone. He didn't want the two to get greedy. It was too eye-catching. 23rd generation, and Zhang Tiany didn't believe him. Okay, we're leaving. Zhang Tiany and 23rd generation didn't plan on staying. After all, they'd come secretly, so they had to leave secretly too. After confirming that they'd left, Chen Zhao entered the river map. It would take a long time to completely fuse such a huge amount of primordial stone. 23rd generation and Zhang Tiany used more than 10 minutes to fuse 150 kilograms of primordial stone. However, Chen Zhao's 1,000 tons of primordial stone needed more than 10,000 times more time than them. Therefore, he had to enter the river map to fuse. Of course, Chen Zhao didn't forget Zhang Tiany's words. He collected the fused powder. Chen Zhao realized that his fusion speed was very fast at the beginning. It was mainly because his small world had completely covered the primordial stone. However, as the stone shell of the primordial stone kept peeling off, the speed gradually slowed down. Chapter 1927. Chen Zhao could feel the life force contained in his small world. It was the purest essence of life force. Chen Zhao started absorbing the life force into his body. He felt that all his cells were filled with power. His skin also started oozing dirt. This wasn't the first time Chen Zhao had cleansed his tendons and veins. This time, Chen Zhao felt like he had been reborn. The life force was continuously reconstructing Chen Zhao's body, reconstructing every part and structure of his body. Just then, a key hidden in his spatial ring suddenly flew out. Chen Zhao saw that he'd gotten this key from Murphy's mother. The key instantly sank into Chen Zhao's body. Then Chen Zhao's body started disintegrating uncontrollably. Chen Zhao paled in fright. His mind was still very clear, but he couldn't stop the process. The key disappeared after entering Chen Zhao's body. This key was the culprit for disintegrating Chen Zhao's body. In the end, Chen Zhao was only left with his soul, and the yin-yang fish in the center of his soul. The surroundings were filled with a bloody mist formed by Chen Zhao's disintegrating body. Suddenly, the bloody mist started gathering toward Chen Zhao's soul again. The reconstruction process was even more thorough than before. The entire process wasn't under Chen Zhao's control. Chen Zhao was just passively enduring the entire process. Chen Zhao had already activated 3 keys. One was the golden key. Its ability was to allow Chen Zhao to evolve under the influence of the environment. The second was the soul key. It allowed Chen Zhao to absorb the soul of his mortal enemy and fill in the flaws of his own soul. At the same time, it made his willpower and spiritual power stronger. The third was the blood-colored key. Of course, it could also be called the God's key. The blood-colored key allowed Chen Zhao to cross the gap between man and God. It allowed Chen Zhao to touch the realm of God. At that time, Chen Zhao understood that each key had a certain ability. It seemed to be able to unlock some kind of restriction in his body. Then what about the fourth key? What effect did it have? What did it mean? The body reconstruction process lasted for a few days. He couldn't do anything in the next few days. He couldn't understand the changes in his body. During this process, Chen Zhao's small world had gathered a large amount of life force. It poured endlessly into Chen Zhao's body. Chen Zhao's body was like a bottomless abyss, greedily devouring every drop of life force. When Chen Zhao's body was reconstructed, he could finally move. He wanted to know what had happened to his body. His speed and strength had all been greatly improved. However, he still didn't understand any substantial changes. What exactly had changed? Finally, Chen Zhao's body, and even the small world were full of vitality. He could no longer fuse with any primordial stones. At this time, there was still less than half of the primordial chaos stone left, which was estimated to be about 400 to 500 tons. Chen Zhao was still confused. What had changed about him? Each key had a unique function. After activating the soul key, he didn't understand its effects for a long time. The blood-red key was also activated by accident. He really wanted to know what the function of the fourth key was. Chen Zhao kept trying to see what changes had happened to his body. However, apart from the increase in strength and speed, it seemed that the yin-yang fish had also grown a lot stronger. Chen Zhao calmed himself down and sat back down. The fourth key was activated when the body was reconstructed. This meant that the condition to activate the fourth key was that the body had to undergo a drastic change or mutation. The function of the fourth key was probably related to the body. Something that he didn't understand must have happened to his body. Was the increase in strength and speed related to the fourth key? It might be related to the fourth key. Or maybe it was because he'd absorbed the vitality in the primordial chaos stone. Chen Zhao had an idea. He put away the primordial chaos stone and its powder. After leaving the river map, he immediately called Zhang Tianyi. "Old Zhang, where are you now? I just left your house not long ago. I'm still in the car. Where do you think I am? Come back for a while. I need to talk to you," Chen Zhao said. "You're not trying to kill me, are you? Did I accidentally learn some of your secrets? And you want to kill me to silence me? Stop bullshitting." Chen Zhao was speechless at Zhang Tianyi's strange thinking. A while later, Zhang Tianyi and 23rd came back. "Why?" Zhang Tianyi asked. "See if I've changed." Chen Zhao felt that he couldn't feel it because he'd been blinded by his own worldview. As bystanders, Zhang Tianyi and 23rd might be able to see the changes more clearly. Changes? Zhang Tianyi and 23rd studied Chen Zhao seriously. Zhang Tianyi poked Chen Zhao's chest and said in an unhappy tone, "You really have the primordial chaos stone. Your body has strengthened quite a bit." Chen Zhao pushed Zhang Tianyi's finger away. "I'm not talking about that. Do you feel any other changes other than your body becoming stronger? Let me sense and we'll know." 23rd Gen cast a perception spell on Chen Zhao. But the next moment he frowned again. "What's wrong?" Perception failed. 23RD's face was full of confusion. "Your body seems to be immune to my perception spell." "My body is absolutely immune to low-level spells," Chen Zhao said. "I'm not using a normal perception spell. I'm using God's vision, an advanced spell. With my power, the effect is 10 times stronger than a normal spiritualist's." Chen Zhao was slightly stunned. He looked at his body. His magic resistance had increased greatly too. In the past, Chen Zhao could only resist spells to a certain extent. Now he could resist most spells. "Since even God's vision can't work on you, I can't do anything either." Chen Zhao looked at Zhang Tianyi. Zhang Tianyi shrugged. "I have an idea. For example, give me a few drops of your blood. I'll go back and study it. Maybe I can understand your changes. Then forget it." The last thing a spiritualist wanted was to give a part of their body to someone else. Not even a few drops of blood. Many spells were released through blood. Even though Chen Zhao thought he was very powerful, he didn't dare to take this risk. "Chen Zhao, where did your changes come from? Why do you feel like you've changed?" Chapter 1928. Whatever, it's fine. Chen Zhao wouldn't tell them his secret. It seemed like he wouldn't be able to get an answer from them. He could only slowly explore it himself in the future. After chasing the two away, Chen Zhao started studying again. Unfortunately, he didn't have any clues. Chen Zhao's constitution had improved in all aspects, so he needed another round of adaptation. The improvement in his foundation also led to improvements in other aspects. Giant spirit transformation could replenish more spiritual qi. Moreover, Chen Zhao's clones had finally multiplied from 8 to 16. Avatar was a very special spell because each avatar possessed the full power of the main body. Thus, the stronger Chen Zhao was, the more celestial power he used. Even after learning the complete version of cloning, Chen Zhao had been maintaining 8 clones. Even though his power had increased by who knew how many times, the number of clones didn't increase much. Unless Chen Zhao's original strength was maintained, and his celestial power doubled, he wouldn't be able to double the number of clones. After absorbing the life force from the primordial stone, Chen Zhao had improved in all aspects. Even his celestial power had increased greatly. Just then Chen Zhao's phone rang. Chen Zhao glanced at the number. It was Klaus. Hi Klaus. President. How are you guys in Africa? It's fun. We live by the river and can fish for crocodiles every day. You're definitely not calling me to report your work, right? Usually, it was West who reported to Chen Zhao. Klaus rarely contacted Chen Zhao. Do you remember that I told you last time that I have a normal girlfriend? Oh, I do. Teacher, right? Yes, Klaus answered. She just called me and asked if I had money. She wants to borrow money from you? Do you suspect that something's wrong with her? No. Before I got together with her, I already investigated her identity. She's just a normal girl. Then what do you mean? I suspect that she's in trouble, Klaus said. If it was just some money, Klaus didn't mind. After all, he had a lot of savings. Klaus was worried that his girlfriend was in trouble. Got it. Give me your girlfriend's information, Chen Zhao said. I'll help you take a look. Since the members of the association were out on missions, Chen Zhao naturally had to take care of their families. Chen Zhao called Portia over and told her to watch the baby. Chen Zhao, on the other hand, went straight to Klaus' girlfriend's place. Chen Zhao read a document as he drove. Nellie Winlancy, 29 years old, primary school teacher. Nellie Winlancy's house was in an ordinary neighborhood. Chen Zhao went to Nellie Winlancy's house and knocked. A while later, Nellie Winlancy opened the door and looked at Chen Zhao. Hello, sir. What can I do for you? Hello, I'm a friend of Klaus. He said that you might have some trouble, so I came to see if I can help. Did Klaus summon you? Come in and sit. Nellie Winlancy looked at Chen Zhao in surprise. Klaus is in Africa right now. He can't come back for now, so he asked me to come. May I ask if you're in trouble? Nellie Winlancy's expression was troubled. Her eyes darted around for a moment before she said, I owe some money. Chen Zhao pushed a check in front of Nellie Winlancy. Nellie Winlancy was shocked when she saw the number on the check. The money she borrowed from Klaus was 10,000, but the check Chen Zhao pushed over was 1 million. No, it's not that much money. Nellie Winlancy waved her hands in fear. It's okay. This money is Klaus's, Chen Zhao said. If you get married in the future, his money will be yours too. We haven't decided yet. Ms. Nellie, can you tell me how you used the money? Chen Zhao asked. I bought a fund, and then I got cheated. How did you get tricked? How did they lie to you? Chen Zhao asked again. Nellie Winlancy told him the whole story. However, Chen Zhao was a bit confused. Wait a moment. I'm not familiar with finance. I'll get a professional lawyer to come. Chen Zhao called Alex and told her to hurry over. It didn't take long for Alex to arrive. Chen Zhao asked Nellie Winlancy to describe what had happened to her. Then Alex told Chen Zhao about Nellie Winlancy's situation. To put it simply, this Miss Nellie Winlancy was tricked into buying a fund. The fund hid the total purchase amount and the installment purchase amount. For example, if I ask you to buy a fund, I can tell you that the total purchase amount is only $10,000. In fact, $10,000 isn't the total purchase amount, but the purchase amount for each installment. In other words, she needs to pay $10,000 for each installment. If she doesn't pay for each installment, it means she's in breach of contract. Not only will the purchase amount be confiscated, but she will also have to pay a penalty. You can do that. It was Chen Zhao's first time hearing about such a scam. Ms. Nellie Winlancey, where were you when you signed the contract? At my house. Not at their company, right? Oh yes. Then did you get an explanation of the contract terms when you signed the contract? What do you mean? That is to say, in the key terms of the contract, did you get a professional lawyer to explain the contract terms? No. Does the contract require a lawyer to be present? Alex nodded and turned to look at Chun Zhao. It's a small problem. It's easy to solve legally. These scam companies are full of loopholes. Even if they have the contract, they can easily solve it. However, these companies often threaten and even use violence against the victims. Okay, I understand. You'll be in charge of the legal matters. I'll handle the non-legal matters. Miss Neri, Chun Zhao said, since your personal safety is in danger, I suggest you call Klaus first. Okay. Nellie Winlancey immediately called Klaus. Klaus wanted Nellie Winlancey to listen to Chun Zhao's arrangements. Ms. Nellie, I'll arrange a safe place for you first, Chun Zhao said. Nellie Winlancey nodded. Then she asked, what about my job? You can only ask for leave for now. Chapter 1929. Chun Zhao brought Nellie Winlancey to the headquarters. It was empty. Only Aduz, Jigs, and his unconscious wife were here. You can stay here temporarily until Klaus comes back, Chun Zhao said, pointing at the headquarters. As long as it's empty, you can choose any room you want. Aduz ran over. President, who's this? Klaus's girlfriend. She's in some trouble, so she's staying here temporarily. Hello, miss, Aduz said. I'm Aduz, the security guard here. You can tell me if you have any trouble. Nellie Winlancey looked at the headquarters before her. She was a bit dizzy. When Chun Zhao brought her here, they'd passed a forest path. She'd been worried that Chun Zhao had evil intentions. However, Chun Zhao hadn't done anything bad to her. As for the headquarters of the association, and the tall tower of trials next to the headquarters, they all made her a little confused. Where exactly is this? Miss Neri, Chun Zhao said. I don't plan on restricting your freedom of movement, but if you want to go out, you better inform me. After all, I promise Klaus to take good care of you. Thank you. Then I'll leave first. Aduz, help Miss Neri choose a room. Okay, Miss Neri, please come in. Nellie Winlancey followed Aduz into the headquarters. When Nellie Winlancey walked into a room, she suddenly saw what was inside through the half-closed door. A man stood in front of a huge container, and inside the container was a naked woman. Ah! Nellie Winlancey screamed in fright. Aduz was also shocked. What's wrong? Inside. Inside. Who are you? What are you doing to me? Nellie Winlancey thought that Chun Zhao had brought her here to soak her in the container too. At this time, Nellie Winlancey's imagination had already started to run wild and fill in the blanks. Just then, Jigs opened the door and walked out. Mr. Aduz, who's this lady? She's a family member of one of our members, Aduz said. She might have misunderstood something. Jigs looked at Nellie Winlancey. Miss, did you see my wife in the healing container and think we're performing some evil ritual? Isn't it? Nellie Winlancey leaned against the wall and stared at Jigs and Aduz in fear. No, the one inside is my wife. She was injured and is receiving treatment in that container. Nellie Winlancey looked at Aduz and Gigs with a skeptical gaze. After a moment of hesitation, she plucked up her courage and looked into the room again. At the same time, she also saw some instruments beside the container. One of the screens looked like a heart rate monitor. What happened to her? Gigs did not want to talk about that nightmarish night. Don't ask. It's not a happy memory for Ziggs. Aduz said. There are empty rooms in the past. You can stay in whichever room you want. Nellie Winlancey chose a room next to Jigs, and then Aduz left. Nellie Winlancey realized that Aduz indeed had no intention of restricting her movements. He did not even take away her phone. After some thought, Nellie Winlancey decided to call Klaus. This place gave her a strange feeling. She could not tell what exactly was strange. Anyway, Nellie Winlancey just felt strange. Klaus, can you tell me what you do? Your friend Mr. Chun brought me to a place called the headquarters. Klaus was silent for a moment before saying, all my secrets are there. You can learn as much as you can. If you know enough, Aduz will tell you about me and the secrets there. I can only tell you that my friend and I aren't bad people. At least, we won't hurt you. If you don't want to stay there, or if you don't want to accept me keeping my secrets, then leave. But before I come back, please accept my protection." Klaus's tone remained calm and unperturbed. Klaus had already considered this when he asked Chen Zhao to do this. "Okay, I understand." Nellie Lancey already understood what Klaus meant. There were some secrets hidden here. It was related to Klaus and the other people here. Klaus would not stop her from exploring this place. Nellie Lancey first went to Jiggs and Maev's room. Nellie Lancey knocked on the door. "Hello, can I come in?" Jiggs turned to look at Nellie Lancey. "Hello, please come in." When Nellie Lancey entered the room, the first thing she did was to observe Maeve in the container. "Mr. Jiggs, your wife. Are you sure she's fine soaking like this?" Jiggs's eyes were lifeless, but his tone was still firm. "If you knew about Maeve's previous injuries, you wouldn't have such a question." Even now, there were still many marks on Maeve's body. "Why didn't you send her to the hospital?" "The hospital can't save her." "Are you sure it's okay here?" "I'm sure." Jiggs nodded calmly. It wasn't a pleasant memory. He was even more unwilling to share that night with others. "It's dinner time," Jiggs said. "Let's go to the restaurant." "Is there food here?" "Everything is provided here." Jiggs smiled faintly. This is their company's headquarters. It's a combination of office and living. When they reached the restaurant, Jiggs said, "It's a buffet. Help yourself." "So much food? Just the two of us. Aduz eats here too." "That's only 3. The food here can feed at least 100 people, right?" "They're used to it." "Oh right. There's a chef here. They definitely want to eat too." Jiggs was used to this place and knew all the secrets hidden here. In fact, the food was also provided to the people in the dungeon. The food here was good. Nellie Lancey had a good dinner. "I feel like the chef here is better than those big restaurants." "Of course the chef here is good." Jiggs smiled. The chef here was an old ghost. Before he died, he'd once been a chef at the White House State Banquet. Jiggs only learned about it later. Just then, Aduz pushed a dining cart over. Nellie Lancey saw that Aduz had brought a lot of food. He seemed to be sending it somewhere. "Is there anyone else here other than us?" "I don't know," Jiggs replied calmly. Chapter 1930. Chun. "I heard from Jerlin that you put sand in our dinner when you went to the kitchen." She must have seen wrongly. Chen Zhao glanced at Jerlin. "Right, darling?" Fei Lai rolled her eyes at Chen Zhao and knocked his head. "It's fine if you threaten others outside, but you're actually threatening your own daughter at home. I was just wondering why I kept feeling disgusted during dinner." Chen Zhao frowned. Chen Zhao placed a primordial stone on the table. "This is what I put in. It tastes bad, but it's full of vitality. It's good for the body. No matter how good it is, it's useless if it can't be digested. I don't want to eat sand for every meal," Fei Lai said in disgust. Fei Lai said with a look of disgust, "Don't put this in our food again." Chen Zhao also didn't think that it was a good idea. If he ate too much, his whole family would get stones. That would be hilarious. "Forget it. Let's wait until we find a suitable way to eat it." Chen Zhao didn't force it. Since his family didn't like it, he'd let it go. "I'm going out for a while." "Business?" "Yes. Kao's girlfriend was tricked by a group of scammers. I need to deal with it." Alex had already found out who was behind the swindlers. The scammers first used fraud to make the victims lose money. If the victims reacted and called the police, they would harass and threaten them with methods that surpassed scammers. They would even use violent methods to hurt the victims or their relatives. It was an extremely evil criminal group. Chen Zhao obtained more information from David. The criminal group had already been blacklisted by the police. It was a key target. However, none of the victims in the past were willing to testify. Therefore, the criminal group had been able to get away with it. "Hello, Mr. Chen. I'm Otis." Chen Zhao sat before Otis and shook his hand. "Hello. How much do you know about the fund our company launched?" "I want to know. Can your fund really reach 10% annual profit?" "Of course. I can promise you that our company has many clients who have worked with us for more than 5 years. Those big clients have never backed out." "Okay, I want to buy 2 million, Chen Zhao said. "All right, no problem." Otis did not show it on the surface, but he was overjoyed. This was a big fish. The moment he opened his mouth, he wanted to buy 2 million USD. And the rarest thing was that this person was an Asian. Even after the incident, a little intimidation would be enough to make him not dare to speak out. Mr. Chun, this is the contract. Please take a look. Otis took out the contract he had prepared. He wasn't afraid that Chen Zhao would see through the contract. Most of the words used in the contract were actually quite convoluted. If one was not a law professional, it would be very difficult to get around it. Not to mention this kind of contract with obvious traps. Even if it was a conventional contract, it would be written in terms that were hard to understand at first glance. Chen Zhao looked at the contract. Why is the purchase amount blank? Mr. Chen, this is because you didn't tell me how much you want to buy, so the purchase amount is temporarily empty. After you sign the contract, we will fill in the purchase amount. Then how can I be sure that you won't write down a random number? Mr. Chen, we're a big company. We won't fill in a random number. I see. Okay then. Chen Zhao signed his name and pressed his fingerprint on it. After confirming Chen Zhao's signature, Otis' smile grew wider. Thank you, Mr. Chen. I believe that we will have a pleasant cooperation. Mr. Chen, how do you plan on paying this money? This is the check. Chen Zhao pushed the check to Otis. When Otis saw the check, his face was full of smiles. But when he saw the name on the back, his expression froze again. Why is it a registered check? Isn't that obvious? Smiling, Chen Zhao looked at Otis. If it's an anonymous check, I won't be able to get anything. Does Mr. Otis think that there's something wrong with my check? No, nothing. Otis still didn't change his expression. Okay, since we're done with the contract, I'll leave first. Goodbye. Goodbye. Just as Chen Zhao was about to leave, he stopped and turned back to look at Otis. Mr. Chun, is there anything else? I suddenly remembered that you haven't given me the copy of the contract. I almost forgot. Please wait. Otis gave Chen Zhao a copy of the contract. Otis didn't care what Chen Zhao would do after getting the copy. There were far fewer traps in this contract. Almost every clause had a trap. Of course, it would be best if the copy was lost. After Chen Zhao left with the copy, Otis made a call. Otis always liked to use this method for big clients like Chen Zhao. First, he snatched the copy of the contract. As long as the client lost the copy, he had 100 ways to swallow the money. Chen Zhao left the building and called Alex. Alex, I've already signed the contract. Are you sure that I won't lose the money? Of course. I can guarantee that not only will it not be lost, but I'll also make these scammers pay me until they go bankrupt. Okay, then I'll wait for your good news. Alright. If they're involved in attacking clients and cause financial or physical damage, will the compensation increase? Sure, but you better provide a diagnosis report. I don't have a diagnosis report, but my sports car will be damaged in the attack. That's fine too, Alex replied. You recorded your conversation just now, right? Yes, it's all recorded. Then it's even better. Chen Zhao drove his sports car past an intersection. Just then, a large truck ran a red light and crashed toward Chen Zhao's car. Chen Zhao glanced at the truck. He didn't try to dodge and just let it hit him. Boom. Chen Zhao's car was sent flying. The truck driver planned to escape. However, Chen Zhao burst the truck's tires, and it flipped over at the intersection. Chen Zhao alighted from the now useless sports car. Seeing that the truck driver was unconscious, he took out his phone. Hey David, I'm in trouble. Chapter 1931. David had brought people over. The first thing they saw was the tragic scene of the car accident. However, when David saw that Chen Zhao was unharmed, and that Chen Zhao was carrying a wounded person, he heaved a sigh of relief. Looking at Chen Zhao's annoying face, David went up and punched Chen Zhao. Tell me what's going on. First of all, one of my friend's family members was cheated by a financial fraud company. And then I was also cheated. And I was cheated up to $2 million. After that group of people cheated me of $2 million, they planned to kill me. I think you can dig out some useful confessions from them. David stared at Chen Zhao. Were you really tricked? David knew Chen Zhao very well. Chen Zhao would never buy financial products. Chen Zhao never touched things he wasn't familiar with. Finance was exactly what Chen Zhao wasn't familiar with. Looking at Chen Zhao's expression, he wasn't angry at being tricked at all. It was a smile that people would only have when they fell into his trap. Okay, David said. Come with me to record the statement. I'm not the suspect, I'm the victim. You're worse than the criminals. I think I might be injured. I need to go to the hospital for an injury evaluation, Chen Zhao suddenly said, clutching his chest in pain. Are you serious? David couldn't tell if Chen Zhao was serious or not. Chen Zhao's shoulder shook slightly and dislocated. Then he said in a calm tone, if you can submit an injury assessment report afterwards, I can also go back with you directly to make a statement. Do you have a deep grudge against those people? David looked at Chen Zhao with a bitter smile. Chen Zhao stabbed 5 fingers into his chest. David was completely speechless. He'd taken strengthening potions before, so his recovery was many times stronger than normal people's. However, he couldn't hurt himself like Chen Zhao. It's not about hatred. The people who were tricked are my subordinates' families. It's a matter of principle, Chen Zhao said. Also, you don't have to pity them. With their crimes, even the death penalty is not enough. You should be glad that I didn't throw them off the roof. Okay, I understand. But even if you caused the injury yourself, can't you make it more presentable? A finger piercing through the chest, no matter how I look at it, doesn't look like it was caused by a car accident. When he arrived at the police station, he saw that Sharon was still there. Chun, what did you do today? Sharon looked at Chen Zhao with evil intentions. What's the point of us taxpayers paying civil servants like you? Chen Zhao retorted. Usually, whenever I do something small, you'll appear before me. But now, I got into a car accident on the street, and you're nowhere to be seen. Car accident? You don't look hurt. Shalon looked him up and down. Chen Zhao pulled open his collar, revealing the wound on his chest. Look, I'm hurt. Sharon didn't know what was going on and was shocked. How did you get hurt so badly? Why don't you go to the hospital? Just then, David walked in with a document. Don't mind him. He did it himself. David didn't avoid Sarah. He took out a document and said, so far we've found some clues. That big truck was stolen, and the driver who hit your car wasn't the owner, but a gambler. In addition, the company you mentioned can be said to be guilty of many crimes. As long as the gambler is willing to talk, it'll be easy to get someone from that company. The driver isn't willing to talk? That's a bit troublesome. Let me talk to the gambler. You can't use violence against him, David said. Don't worry, I know what I'm doing. At least, I won't use violence in the police station. Chen Zhao entered the interrogation room where the driver was. After only 3 minutes, Chen Zhao came out. The driver was a gangster and a gambler, but he was still a normal person. The person he was facing was a spiritualist, and a rich one at that. Unless he had 10 times the willpower of a normal person, he wouldn't be able to do anything. Otherwise, it wouldn't be difficult for a spiritualist to make a normal person talk. Intimidation, threats, direct shock, or even magic could easily destroy a normal person's mind. All of them could easily destroy a normal person's mind. Okay, he's willing to talk. David knew that Chen Zhao must have used some unusual methods, so he didn't ask about the entire process. After entering the interrogation room, David didn't waste too much time either. He'd never interrogated a suspect so smoothly before. The entire process was too easy. The suspect answered all his questions. When he came out, Chen Zhao was sitting at the desk in the police station, chatting with a few police officers. He even proudly showed off his injuries. David was even more speechless. He went up and patted Chen Zhao's shoulder heavily. David, be gentle. I'm hurt. The guy already told us everything. Okay, then let's arrest him. Also, my lawyer is almost here. What? You called the lawyer again? There were all kinds of enemies in the world. Police and lawyers were undoubtedly enemies too. Lawyers were the last people the police wanted to deal with. I can't help it. I'm not good at this. It's not your first time either. What I'm good at is letting the professionals handle it. David could only go and arrest them. This time the evidence was solid, so he didn't have to worry. Moreover, these people were guilty of the most heinous crimes. The police had been meticulously collecting evidence of their crimes. Now that the opportunity was delivered to them, The police had no reason to reject it. Alex came with a group of bandit lawyers. There was a professional term in the legal world, bandit lawyer. It referred to lawyers who liked to exaggerate cases, increase compensation, and increase the number of crimes. This type of lawyer was the bandit lawyer. For example, the Chinese man who'd been dragged off a United Airlines flight 2 years ago had received tens of millions of dollars in compensation and hired a bandit lawyer. Because of that incident, many Chinese people became loyal customers of United Airlines. Even Chen Zhao had gone to apply for a VIP account. They all hoped that they could get the same treatment as the Chinese man and be dragged off the plane. Every law firm had a group of bandit lawyers. Moreover, bandit lawyers had always been loved by their clients. This was because they could always get the most out of their clients. This time, Alex didn't just bring lawyers from her law firm. She also brought some famous bandit lawyers in LA. This was Chen Zhao's request. He didn't care about the price. If he could sentence these people to death, he didn't want a life sentence. Chapter 1932. Otis and all the higher-ups in the company were sent to the police station. They were all still dumbfounded. When Otis saw Chen Zhao, he was clearly stunned. "Mr. Chen, why are you here?" Otis asked, confused. "I was in a car accident. The perpetrator said something that pissed me off." Chen Zhao smiled at Otis. "Mr. Chen, could there be some kind of misunderstanding?" Otis's face darkened. "I don't care if it's a misunderstanding or not. I just need an answer. As long as it's related to this case, I won't let them leave prison alive." Chen Zhao stood up and patted Otis' shoulder. "Just like my old enemy, I don't care how much I spend. I'm willing to spend $1 million or $10 million, or even more. Oh, good luck." After Chen Zhao left, David walked over. "Mr. Otis, you're in big trouble. I'm waiting for my lawyer. He's not here." I refuse to answer any questions. Of course, if the prosecution was a commoner or the police, the lawyer could indeed put a lot of pressure on the prosecution. But now, the prosecution was someone even richer than them. As for the suspect, he had a lot of bad records. The police also had a lot of evidence. In Otis's interrogation room, his lawyer hadn't arrived yet. Chen Zhao's legal team came in. Without saying anything, each of them carried a large number of documents and started reading them before Otis. This caused the atmosphere in the interrogation room to become extremely tense. "Police? Who are they?" "Oh, they're lawyers, but not yours. I haven't received a summons from the court yet. They can't appear here. I want them to leave immediately. If they're here, I refuse to answer any questions." "They're reading the victim's charges," David said, unconcerned. Actually, the lawyers of both parties couldn't meet or interact with the other party's representatives. However, there were too many loopholes in this kind of thing. "Mr. Otis, according to our client's request, we're going to sue you. The charges include attempted murder, causing serious injury, intentionally destroying valuable property, huge financial fraud, and inciting others to rob. There's also civil compensation, including our client's financial losses. The total amount is over $200 million. "What? You're framing me. Whether it's a false accusation or not is up to the court to decide," the leading lawyer said. "I don't have $200 million US. I can't even take out $2 million US. Otis was not the leader of the scam, but one of the higher-ups. Even the head of the fraud group couldn't take out $200 million US. He didn't even have $20 million US. The total amount of money they had swindled was less than $20 million. That's your problem, but we can guarantee that the compensation will be decided. All of your assets will be used as compensation. Even after you get out of prison, you'll have nothing. You can't do this. Police, they're threatening us." Otis panicked. "The police will also file a criminal complaint against you. You will be sent to court for second-degree murder, endangering public safety, threatening and intentional injury," David said indifferently. At this moment, the appointed lawyer arrived at the scene. This lawyer was not Otis's personal lawyer, but a lawyer specially assigned to him by the police. Most of the time, this kind of lawyer was just going through the motions. After seeing the group of people in the room, he understood the situation. This lawyer had already given up on Otis in his heart. For a case like this with concrete evidence, all he could do was follow the procedure. If Otis needed it, he could ask the judge for leniency. That was pretty much all he could do. Of course, considering that it wasn't just the police who filed the lawsuit, it also involved a super tycoon. Then the pleading step could be skipped. With all these crimes added up, even if Otis could get out of prison, it would be 30 years of loss. This lawyer admired Otis. He even scammed a super tycoon. From all the signs, it was obvious that this super tycoon was purposely messing with him. Just the cost of a team of bandit lawyers in the interrogation room was very high. These bandit lawyers were not comparable to a lawyer like him who specialized in public security, procuratorial, and judicial work. Their efficiency and professionalism, as well as their fees, were all 10 times, or even tens of times more than a normal lawyer. Of course, as long as they could control the case, the profits would also be high. Since everyone is here, let's start the interrogation, David said expressionlessly. I want them to leave, Otis said as he pointed at the bandit lawyers. The appointed lawyer was in a difficult position. He didn't want to go against these bandit lawyers. The name of the bandit lawyers was notorious in the industry. Of course, compared to their notorious reputation, they were much more professional than their peers. Mr. Otis, are you sure you want to expel us from here? If you insist, I can guarantee that you will never be able to leave prison, the leading lawyer said. You're threatening. You all saw it, Otis yelled agitatedly. The appointed lawyer sighed and said, Mr. Otis, please calm down. The current situation is very disadvantageous to you. I think you should cooperate with them and not fight them. That won't do you any good. What do you mean? Are you my lawyer or not? If you're not satisfied with my work, you can ask for a new lawyer, but it doesn't matter who comes. The plaintiff has already submitted a financial loss report, an injury report to the court. The financial loss is more than $200 million, and that injury report can add at least 3 years to your sentence. At this moment, Otis realized that the entire world was standing against him. Even his lawyer was the same. He had no intention of helping him at all. If I cooperate, what can I get? At least you won't die in prison, the leading lawyer said. Cough cough. David coughed. Chen Zhao's legal team was too explicit with their words. From what I know, the plaintiff's assets are more than $10 billion, David said. I think you should cooperate. Chapter 1933. Chen Zhao had already gone home. There was basically nothing for him to do here. Anyway, Chen Zhao would let Alex handle everything. Anyway, Chen Zhao's request was for every main member of the scam to go to jail for 20 to 30 years. He would also squeeze all of their assets dry. Everyone said that evil people would be tortured by evil people. Chen Zhao didn't mind being that evil person. The next day, Chen Zhao received a call from Otis. Otis wanted to talk to him. After one night, Otis probably understood something. Would a super rich person buy a $2 million fund? It was obviously impossible. Chen Zhao was clearly coming for them. The more Otis thought about it, the more afraid he became. Otis was going to be transferred to the prison in his district today. So he wanted to meet Chen Zhao now. He wanted to find out more or make some deals. When Chen Zhao saw Otis, he no longer had any shrewdness. He looked at Chen Zhao with haggard eyes. Mr. Chen, I want to know if we've offended you in any way. Chen Zhao smiled. My subordinate's family bought a fund from you. Unfortunately, my subordinate isn't in L.A., so I have to take care of this. Otis was helpless. Who's your subordinate's family? I can refund him the money. It's too late. When I got involved, I didn't plan on resolving this peacefully. Smiling, Chen Zhao looked at Otis. You and your accomplices must go to jail. Chen Zhao was confident, but he wouldn't tell Otis who Neri Lancy was. Otis' face darkened. Gritting his teeth, he said, Mr. Chen, do you have to make it so ugly? Are you threatening me that you have the power of the underworld? If it's violence, that's what I'm best at. Trust me, you have no chance of winning. Mr. Chen, you have family, right? Chen Zhao looked at Otis. Do you? Otis didn't speak. Clearly, he realized that he'd said something stupid. Okay, cooperate with the police. If you can get away with it within the scope of the rules, then I have nothing to say. But if you think that violence can solve the problem, I don't mind competing with you in violence. Chen Zhao stood up. If you think threatening me with my family works, then I can have my family follow 10 or 20 bodyguards. But what about your family? Do you have that much money? Ada's face paled. He realized that he really couldn't do anything to Chen Zhao. Nellie Wenlancy stretched her body. The conditions here were indeed very good. Not only was the food and accommodation good, but the environment was also quite good. Nellie Wenlancy walked around the place yesterday. She was a little confused about what this place was for. There was some equipment here, and it looked like a research facility. There were also warehouses and workshops. Nellie Wenlancy got up to wash up and change. At this time, the sound of a car came from outside the window. The sound of Chen Zhao's sports car was quite loud. Nellie Wenlancy went downstairs to welcome him. Hello, Miss Neri. Mr. Chen, you can call me Wenlancy. Okay, you can call me Chen too. Or you can call me President like Klaus does, Chen Zhao said. President? Then what exactly is this place for? You can ask Klaus if you have any questions, Chen Zhao said. You just need to know that Klaus and I aren't doing anything illegal. If it's not illegal, why do you have to be so mysterious? Klaus will have to explain that to you too. Chen Zhao entered the headquarters and Nellie Wenlancy followed behind. Chen Zhao went to Jig's room. Jigs had been sharing a room with Maev. It was convenient to take care of her. When Chen Zhao knocked on Jig's room, Jigs had just woken up. Mr. Chen. Yes, Maev needs to change her water. Also, I need to give her a checkup. Okay. Chen Zhao and Jigs started operating the equipment. In the past few days, Jigs had gradually familiarized himself with how to use the equipment. Do you need my help? Nellie Wenlancy asked. No, just the two of us are enough. After the equipment was turned off, Chen Zhao and Jigs lifted Maev out of the container. Nellie Wenlancy watched from the side. Mr. Chen, are you a doctor? Yes, but I don't have a license, Chen Zhao said. Mr. Chen, Maev opened her eyes yesterday, Jigs said. Did you talk to her? I'm not sure if she's awake. Her injuries are basically out of danger now. You don't have to soak her in the container anymore. As for her psychological problems, you'll have to help her. During this period of time, Jigs had personally witnessed Maev's unrecognizable body gradually recovering from its previous state. Some obvious injuries were also recovering during the soaking. Therefore, he had absolute trust in Chen Zhao now. After checking Maev's injuries, Chen Zhao met Jig's gaze. After a moment of silence, he said, She should have woken up a few days ago, but she doesn't want to talk. Or rather, she doesn't want to face reality. Then what about now? Chen Zhao nodded. Maev was actually awake right now. Jigs couldn't control his emotions anymore. He knelt by the window. Maev, I'm sorry. It's all my fault. It's all because of my uselessness. Let's go out first. You guys talk. After Chen Zhao and Nellie Wenlancy walked out of the room, they could hear people talking inside. A moment later, Jigs hurriedly ran to Chen Zhao and Nellie Wenlancy. Miss Neri, can I borrow a set of your women's clothes? Huh? Of course. A while later, Jigs helped Maev to Chen Zhao. Maev's injuries were 80% healed. The only problems now were the scars on her skin and her psychological trauma. Maev's face was pale. After all, she'd been soaking in the water for almost 20 days. Her limbs were also very weak. Actually, she'd woken up earlier than Chen Zhao had expected. Mr. Chen, thank you for saving me that night. Maev's voice was weak. I'm sorry that I couldn't get there earlier that day. No, it's not your fault. No one could have predicted that. It's my fault. I couldn't protect Maev well. Maev, I can call you that, right? Of course. Maev nodded slightly. As an outsider, I still hope that you can let go of the past. Jigs has been watching over you without rest. It's not a beautiful memory, but it's not enough for you to ruin your life. Chapter 1934. Chen Zhao wasn't someone who knew how to comfort others. He only felt sympathy for Maev. He didn't have much personal feelings for her. That was all he could say. Plus, he wasn't that familiar with Maev. Hearing Chen Zhao's words, Maev nodded slightly. Nellie Wenlancy didn't know what exactly had happened. But looking at Maev's injuries, She could more or less understand how hurt she was. Jigs, I'll prescribe some medicine for Maev. Some for oral use, and some for external application. You'll be in charge of applying the medicine on Maev. Also, if there are any changes in Maev's condition, you can call me. Okay, got it. If there's nothing else, I'll be leaving, Chen Zhao said. Miss Neri, Maev has just recovered. Can you accompany Maev for a while? Sure, no problem. Alright. Ms. Wenlancy, your problem has been solved. Those people will go to jail soon. You should get your money back soon. Nellie Wenlancy was surprised that Chen Zhao had solved the problem so quickly. Nellie Wenlancy could tell that they weren't bad people. Aduz helped Maev find a wheelchair. Nellie Wenlancy pushed Maev for a walk beside the man-made lake. The scenery here is really good, but the weather these 2 days is a bit bad. Nellie Wenlancy said regretfully. If the weather is good, it'll be even more beautiful. There's never a good day here, Maev said. Maev, let bygones be bygones. Nellie Wenlancy thought that Maev was hinting at her feelings. I'm serious. The weather here has always been like this. Haven't you always been? I've been awake for more than 10 days. Every day, Jigs opens the curtains and windows to let in fresh air. It hasn't rained in the past 10 days, right? I don't remember having more than 10 consecutive cloudy days. That's the only cloudy days I'm talking about. Nellie Wenlancy looked up and realized that the dark clouds in the sky were indeed only covering the nearby area. They didn't cover a large area. Weird. Nellie Wenlancy murmured in confusion. What's this phenomenon? It's not natural. Then what? If I said it was controlled, would you believe me? Miss Maev. Nellie Wenlancy wondered if Maev was mentally unstable. Otherwise, why would he say such illogical words? Do you think I'm insane? No. Nellie Wenlancy quickly denied. It's natural for you to think that way. Normal people wouldn't take my words seriously. Nellie Wenlancy looked at Maev in confusion. Maev's words weren't messy but rather clear. Although I've been unconscious all this time, I wasn't actually sleeping, Maev said. Nellie Wenlancy was even more confused. Maev's words always sounded mysterious. Not sleeping? What are we going to do then? I'm listening to all the sounds here. There are many secrets hidden here. I still don't understand. I didn't understand it at first, Maev said. Mr. Chen said that there are many secrets here. Let's go back to the headquarters. The wind here is a little cold. Oh, okay. Back at the headquarters, Maev suddenly said, there's an elevator over there. Nellie Wenlancy didn't understand, but she still followed her request and pushed Maev to the elevator. What's wrong with this elevator? This is the elevator to the basement. Basement? Yes. Curious. Nellie Wenlancy pushed Maev into the elevator. And then, lower 3 floors. When they reached the 3rd floor, the elevator door opened. Nellie Wenlancy realized that there were people down there. There were many glass houses here too. A dozen of them had people locked inside. Nellie Wenlancy was shocked. What's going on? Who are they? Prisoners. Mr. Chen's prisoners. Nellie Wenlancy gulped. Would she encounter any danger after entering this place? If Chen Zhao knew that she was here, would he lock her up too? Or was it to silence them? Are you scared? Maev asked softly. This is illegal detention, right? Nellie Wenlancy asked uncertainly. These people aren't under the protection of the law, Maev said. Nellie Wenlancy pushed Maev to a glass house and looked at the prisoner inside. The prisoner was an old man. He glanced at the 2 women outside and then calmly lay back on the bed to watch TV. The glass house wasn't bad. It wasn't big, only a dozen square meters, but there was an independent bathroom. There was also a single bed, a single sofa, a table, and a TV hanging on the wall. Nellie Wenlancy also realized that the book on the table had strange words on the cover. She actually couldn't recognize which country it was from. All the prisoners here were very calm. Some of them didn't even bother to look at the 2 women outside. Who are they? Nellie Wenlancy asked. When Nellie Wenlancy pushed Maev past a room, she suddenly saw a man standing in the floor-to-ceiling window. The man's eyes were lifeless and had dark circles around them. He looked like he hadn't slept in decades, but he kept staring at Nellie Wenlancy and Maev. Nellie Wenlancy was a bit dazed. She stared at the man inside. Ah! Nellie Winlancey suddenly felt pain on the back of her hand. Maeve had pinched her hand. Don't stare at his eyes. Just then, a white-haired old man in the next room said, Are you new people? What happened to me? Nellie Winlancey didn't understand. But she also felt that something was wrong. She'd actually stared at a strange man's eyes for so long. Off it, you're too meddlesome. I almost succeeded. The man who'd almost bewitched Nellie Winlancey with his eyes said unhappily. Don't you want to escape? I'm different from you. We'll only be locked up here for 3 years. It's already been half a year. If you escape from here without permission, you'll have to face that man. Do you really think you can escape from here? I can't beat him, but as long as I leave this room, no one can stop me no matter where I go. Chapter 1935. Offit glanced at the 2 women outside the glass room. This isn't a place you should be. Offit was in a good mood. After all, she and her partner weren't sentenced to life imprisonment. Let's go, Neri. It's indeed dangerous here. Aren't they locked inside? Why is it dangerous? Even if they're locked inside, they're still dangerous. The glass could block most attacks. But these people weren't normal people. The consequences of underestimating them were severe. Even Maeve only understood a little. Maeve didn't know what situation she was in either. She could hear everyone's conversation in the entire headquarters. Of course, that included the people in the dungeon. It seemed that the barriers of the buildings and distance didn't work on her at all. But that was as far as she could go. She could hear them when she was unconscious. But at that time, she'd unconsciously accepted the sounds outside. It was also these sounds that had woken her up. After waking up, she was more subjective in her selection of sounds. She could control herself to only listen to a certain sound. As long as it was within a certain range, she could hear everything. She also found out from the conversation between the members of the supernatural organization. There was a spiritual world in this world that she didn't know or understand. She seemed to be a member of the spiritual world too. Of course, she'd also heard about Qinzhao. Whether it was the members of the organization or the people in the dungeon, when they talked about Qinzhao, there was only one topic. Scary. This was the topic she'd heard the most about Qinzhao. At the same time, she also knew that Qinzhao wasn't as kind as he seemed. Just then the elevator door opened again. Aduz pushed the food cart in. When he saw Maeve and Neri Winlancey, he only nodded. Aduz didn't say anything else regarding their appearance here. After all, Qinzhao had told him to let them go wherever they wanted. Mr. Aduz, hello. Neri Winlancey was still a bit nervous. She knew nothing about this place or the people here. Hello, Aduz said. It's not very safe here, so it's best not to come down. Mr. Aduz, why are they locked here? As a normal woman, Neri Winlancey still couldn't understand this. After all, whether it was from a moral or a legal perspective, this was not allowed. They did bad things, that's why they're locked up here. But can you detain people at will? Not necessarily. Only under certain circumstances, Aduz said calmly. They are all under certain circumstances. Aduz leisurely distributed lunch to everyone in the glass house. Then he walked up to Maeve. Lady Maeve, can you see them? Yes. Maeve knew what Erdos was talking about. Aduz had 2 wraiths with him, and they were talking to each other. Maeve wasn't surprised by this at all. Back upstairs, Nellie Winlancey asked impatiently. Maeve, Aduz asked you who you could see just now. That is the biggest secret here, and I happen to know it. Surface secret? You still don't understand. Understand what? Everyone here is not an ordinary person. Maeve said. Also, there are far more people here than you see. There are others who will make your hair stand on end. I still don't understand. Wraiths, just like what you think. There are a lot of wraiths wandering around here. Stop joking. Nellie Winlancey's expression was stiff. Maeve didn't sound like she was joking. That's what Aduz asked me just now. He asked me if I could see the wraiths wandering around him. Are you serious? Of course. Nellie Winlancey was skeptical about Maeve's words. After all, she couldn't accept it immediately without seeing it with her own eyes. Also, Maeve's emotions weren't stable. Nellie Winlancey couldn't be sure if Maeve was normal. Then why can you see him, but I can't? I heard people here say that the awakening of a witch is divided into life and death trials. I might have awakened because I passed one. What's a life and death trial? I'm not too sure about that. Everything I know is from the conversations of the people here. May have paused. But the first inhuman I saw wasn't the wraiths here. It was Mr. Chun. Mr. Chun? He's not human? Nellie Lancey asked in surprise. He's human, but he's not an ordinary person. Mayev fell silent again. After a while Mayev said again, a group of armed bandits broke into my house. Then Mr. Chun came and killed them all alone, saving my husband and I. I was heavily injured, but I could still hear the bandits' screams. But he's not a cop. When I was in danger, it wasn't the police who came to save me. So you're saying that there's some kind of unconventional organization here? More accurately, it's a paranormal organization. This place is called the Supernatural Organization, and Mr. Chun is the leader of the organization. But I still don't see him. Because you're an ordinary person, Mayev said. You said you're an awakened witch. So other than seeing wraiths, what else can you do? Me? What can I do? Mayev fell into deep thought. She didn't know any magic yet. But subconsciously, she believed that she was more than that. He could receive a lot of sounds, so his magic power was most likely related to sound. Mayev opened her mouth slightly. She realized that she could actually make super high-frequency sounds. Humans couldn't hear them at all. Mayev looked at the glass window in front of her. The high-frequency sounds shot toward the glass. Crack! The glass window shattered at the sound of the noise. Do you see that cracked window? That's what I did. You did? How did you do that? Nellie Lancey still didn't want to believe it. After all, seeing was believing. Look carefully at the glass next to you. Mayev opened her mouth again. Mayev felt that her abilities weren't limited to this. So this time, Mayev raised her voice. Crack! A crack appeared on the second piece of glass as well. Moreover, the cracks on the glass window were very dense. Do you see it? Nellie Lancey saw the crack with her own eyes. She couldn't help but rub her eyes. She still couldn't believe it. Chapter 1936. The glass, which hadn't cracked a moment ago, was now covered in cracks. But now she had doubts again. Did Mayev really do this? Or was there a device on the glass? Nellie Lancey looked at Mayev in confusion. Is this the magic you were talking about? It's different from what I imagined. In Nellie Lancey's imagination, magic was the kind of dazzling and colorful things in movies and TV shows. She had to admit that Nellie Lancey's thought was surprisingly similar to Chen Zhao's. But in reality, most magic wasn't colorful. It wasn't that it couldn't achieve the effect. But light and shadow also needed energy. This meant that the effect would weaken. So unless it was necessary, there wouldn't be any beautiful effects. Most of the time, the so-called dazzling effects were produced by the construction of magic arrays. But Nellie Lancey and Mayev didn't understand this. What a magical power. This is my first time using it. Mayev looked at her thin hands. Mayev tried a few more times, but it wasn't pure magic. But even so, Nellie Lancey was already stunned by what she saw. She finally believed that there were things she didn't understand in this world. Are there really a lot of spirits around? Nellie Lancey asked. Mayev nodded. A lot. Will they attack us? No, they're also members of the Supernatural Association, Mayev said. Their leader should be a spirit called Pamela. Nellie Lancey still shuddered. So that's the secret Klaus was hiding. Klaus touched his nose and held the phone. Do you know? Yes, I know. On the other end, Nellie Lancey said. I saw an unimaginable power. Who showed it to you? There shouldn't be anyone else in the headquarters apart from the president, right? Did he show it to you? No. Do you remember Mayev? Oh, the injured woman? Klaus was dazed. Is she awake now? Yes, I do. Nellie Lancey heard some noise on the other end. Klaus, what are you doing? Roar. I'm saying I'm fighting. Do you believe me? Fighting? With whom? Not human, Klaus said. Then am I disturbing you? It's okay. It's not time for us to appear yet. Klaus held the phone between his shoulders as he paid attention to the battlefield. Although the battlefield was constantly changing, Klaus and the people from the Supernatural Organization were at the back, so the battle at the front didn't affect them. Then you go ahead. Call me back when you're free. Nellie when Lancey did not dare to delay Klaus. All right, I'll call you later. Klaus hung up. What's wrong? Nami asked. It's nothing. Klaus shook his head and returned his attention to the battlefield. At this moment, the battlefield was shrouded in darkness. However, there was an instrument in front of them. The instrument had many red and white dots. There were fewer red dots, about 100 or so, while there were many white dots, reaching tens of thousands. Mr. West, when do we attack? Klaus asked. There's no rush. Even if we kill 100 normal spirit beasts, they won't be worth as much as 1 liter spirit beast. So rather than wasting magic power on normal spirit beasts, we might as well choose the right time. The white dots on the instrument were spirit beasts, while the red dots were human spiritualists. However, human spiritualists were clearly stronger than spirit beasts. And the number of spirit beasts far exceeded the humans. It was hard to say who was stronger, because both sides were preserving their strength. As long as the spirit beasts were killed, they would turn into spirit light. More and more spirit light appeared in the air, almost lighting up the entire battlefield. At this moment, 2 gigantic spirit beasts appeared from the back of the battle line. The 2 huge spirit beasts were leader spirit beasts. They did not enter the battlefield directly. Instead, they opened their mouths and started to devour the spirit light released by their dead comrades. They're here. West stared at the 2 leader spirit beasts. On the other side of the battlefield, the guardians and managers stood on high ground. They were also looking down at the battlefield. Sivir clenched her fists. Irene Horton sat lazily on the ground. These invited spiritualists don't seem very strong, a girl in red said. The girl in red rose Twilight. She was a genius girl, known as the most outstanding genius of the new generation. She was even more outstanding than the Scarlet Church's 25th generation Blood Mary. She came from a famous magic family in Europe, the Twilight family. Since she was 8, she could already carry out difficult missions on her own. The real experts haven't attacked yet, the man standing at the front said. The man standing at the head of the table said. He was the only manager recognized by the Nature Guardian. And he was also the one who could borrow the most draconic power. His name was Malin, and in ancient Greek, Malin meant Titan. And he indeed had the blood of a true Titan. It was precisely because of the Titan's bloodline that he was able to withstand such a huge amount of dragon power. And after his Titan power merged with the dragon power, he could almost reach 30% of a real dragon's power. Experts? Really? A white-bearded old man wearing thick reading glasses said. The white-bearded old man was called Sarah. He was originally a volunteer for ecological protection. He was seriously injured in an accident and was saved by the witch doctor of a local tribe. That tribe worshipped the poisonous dragon. They saw the poisonous dragon as their god. Then, the white-bearded old man accidentally received the poisonous dragon's recognition and was given new power. He also became one of the 6 guardians of order. Yes, Sivir said. 2 days ago, he single-handedly defeated the speed-enhanced type spiritualist hiding in the gathering area. He's very powerful. Strange, why hasn't he done anything yet? Sivir was originally an ordinary witch. She was different from the others. She didn't have extraordinary knowledge, a strong family background, or outstanding talent. But she was the only one who accepted the Guardian's test and passed. So she also became one of the 6 Guardians of Order. Just then, the sky above the battlefield suddenly lit up. It was very, very bright, as if it was daytime. A girl floated in the air with one hand raised high. Her raised palm was holding a small sun with a diameter of 10 meters. Chapter 1937. The little sun lit up the entire battlefield. Little sun? That's from the Holy Fire sect? Malone stared at the little sun in shock. This spell was too iconic. The little sun was a spell unique to the Holy Fire sect. It wasn't something normal people could come into contact with. Sivir looked at Jocelyn and Nash in surprise, even though they were far away. She was far away, but she could still see Jalanash clearly. She hadn't talked to Jalanash before, but she still remembered that Jalanash was from the supernatural organization. She came from North America. Magri Modric was also on the battlefield. He looked up at the little sun in the sky. This spell was stolen from him by the supernatural organization. Therefore, when he saw this spell, his heart could be said to be filled with mixed feelings. Jalanash's spell was even more powerful than his. It was obvious that Jalanash's magic power was much higher than his. Jalanash looked down at the battlefield from above. She needed to estimate where the little sun would land. If she threw it at the center of the battlefield, she could achieve the greatest result. But at the same time, it would also affect their comrades. There was no such thing as sacrificing oneself for the greater good on the battlefield. No one wanted to sacrifice themselves here. So if she threw the little sun down, she would basically offend half of the spiritual world. Jalanash didn't want to cause trouble for the supernatural organization. Not only did the people on the battlefield see the little sun in the sky, 2 chief-level spirit beasts appeared at the edge of the battlefield. They also saw the little sun and Jalanash. One of the leader-level spirit beasts opened its mouth wide. It started charging, gathering the spiritual light it had just absorbed in its mouth. This move was very similar to Chen Zhao's holy light cannon, but the chief-level spirit beast took a longer time to charge. Of course, it was more powerful too. Chen Zhao's holy light cannon could be fired at any time, but the power was limited, and the range was only a few dozen meters. But the chief-level spirit beast had already started charging from 2,000 to 3,000 meters away. "Oh no," Sivir said anxiously. "That girl released such a large-scale spell in the air. She's an open target." They were 2 to 3 kilometers away from the center of the battlefield. They couldn't save her in time even if they wanted to. She must have never fought against spirit beasts before, so she doesn't understand their characteristics and abilities. Malone said, "What a pity. If she hadn't been so reckless, she would have become an outstanding warrior." Jocelyn and Nash also realized that they were being targeted. However, she was not anxious about this, because her companion was nearby. At that moment, West said to Helis, "Helis, go protect Jalanash." "No problem." Helith leaped up. There was a black cloud under her feet. This black cloud was the aura of death. This was a new method that Helis had come up with after returning from Norway. Just like the immortals of China, they stepped on the clouds and chased after the stars and the moon. She also became another member of the association who could fly after Gaia, Norma, Jolene, and Nash. Helis came to Jalanash's side. Jalanash was still forming a small sun. However, it was not strenuous for her. Under the influence of the fire dragon's calamity, Little Sun's consumption of magic power was halved, and its power doubled. Fire Dragon Calamity was created from the heart of a fire dragon. Its amplification of fire-type magic reached a shocking level. "Helis, the black cloud under your feet is really interesting." Just then, the distant leader-level spirit beast fired its mouth cannon. A beam of white light broke through the night sky and headed straight for Jalanash. "It's over." Malone shook his head. That girl might be able to block that attack in her normal state, but in her current state, she probably won't be able to escape. The others around Malone had the same expression on their faces. Of course, they hoped to have more powerful helpers. The stronger the better. However, they hadn't expected something like this to happen. Just then, a black cloud enveloped Jalanash. Apart from the small sun's light that could still penetrate the black cloud, she couldn't see anything else. The strong beam of light shot into the black cloud and disappeared without a trace. It didn't penetrate the black cloud, nor did it cause an explosion. It was as if nothing had happened. Helis' aura of death had the ability to absorb energy. Of course, the aura of death had a limit. If it exceeded the limit, the aura of death would directly dissipate. However, there was no need to worry about this battle. The 2 leader-level spirit beasts weren't that powerful. Just then, the black cloud suddenly spread out. The small sun didn't shrink. Instead, it grew larger. Malone and the others were all shocked. Necromancer. One had to say that this battle was full of surprises. And the surprises came one after another. Sivir's expression was one of shock. She had originally thought that the supernatural organization from North America only had an elite, no matter how powerful they were. In such a large area, 1 or 2 experts wasn't enough to shock her. But then, Jalanash and Helis' appearance shocked her once again. At the same time, Jalanash finally finished preparing her spell. The small sun shone brightly like a real sun. It fell like a mountain. However, the small sun didn't fall vertically. Instead, it pointed diagonally at the 2-liter level spirit beasts. The spirit beasts on the battlefield could feel the sun's light. Their strength was suppressed by at least 20%. Even though it didn't hit directly, just the light alone was enough to change the tide of the battle. Rumble, the small sun finally fell to the ground. In that instant the earth shook. Destructive shockwaves swept in all directions. Magri Modric's expression completely froze. This spell was passed down from his hands. But why was it in Jalanash's hands that it displayed miraculous power? At the place where the little sun had landed, everything within a radius of 1,000 meters was obliterated. Everyone stopped what they were doing, even those who were fighting. The destructive power scared everyone, including Jalanash. Helis looked at Jalanash. Your spell is so destructive? Even if Helis' death spell was 100 times stronger, it couldn't reach Jalanash's level. It's not my power. Jalanash shook her head. It's the power of the fire dragon disaster. The fire dragon disaster contains a huge amount of fire elements. As my spell is released, it attaches to it. It will take at least 3 days for me to unleash such destructive power again. Chapter 1938. Jalanash landed on the ground. Wes walked up and asked, "Did you kill it?" "1 dead and 1 injured," Jalanash said. Helios is dealing with the aftermath. Not long after, Helios returned in less than 10 minutes. "How was it?" "Done," Helios said calmly. "It's just a small fry, and it was heavily injured by Jalanash. If I can't deal with it, it'll be too embarrassing." As for the others, they went to participate in killing the spirit beasts. After losing their leader, the spirit beasts started retreating one after another. It seemed like other than the 2-liter spirit beasts, they had other commanders. The retreating spirit beasts were no longer a threat. Some of the weaker spirit controllers could now slaughter the spirit beasts without any worries. The supernatural organization had killed the 2 spirit beasts themselves, so they definitely had the most achievements. However, killing some small fries would also allow the association members to vent their anger. At this moment, Magri Modric arrived at the area where the association members were fighting. He was worried about being misunderstood, so when he got close, he deactivated the protective spell. After all, they were on the battlefield, and the situation was very chaotic. Many times, because of nervousness, they might hurt their own people. Therefore, every organization and force basically had their own territory. No one interfered with each other in case they were misunderstood. If they wanted to get close to someone else's territory, the first thing they had to do was remove their own defensive spell to show their sincerity. Magri Modric came to the area around the members and slowed down. "Mr. West, hello." "Hello, Mr. Magri. This is a battlefield. It's not a good habit to run around." Magri Modric's gaze searched around and finally landed on Jalanash. "Hello, Miss Jalanash. What is it?" Jalanash wasn't very willing to talk to Magri Modric. Magri Modric wasn't weak at all. But Jalanash just couldn't stand Magri Modric. Last time, Magri Modric had brought people to cause trouble for them. If they hadn't agreed to let them go, everyone, including Magri Modric, wouldn't be alive now. "Miss Jalanash, was the spell you just used really little sun?" To be honest, the power of that little sun was beyond imagination. Magri Modric felt that Jalanash must have found a trick. That was why he decided to come over and learn from Jalanash, to see if he could get any tips. Everyone immediately understood Magri Modric's intentions. You don't have to think about it. That's the amplification effect of a magic tool. Jalanash's answer was within Modric's expectations. Even if Jalanash was stronger than him, she couldn't be more than 10 times stronger. Therefore, it was acceptable if it was enhanced by magic tools. But even so, Magri Modric still felt that this group of people really shouldn't be offended. These organizations that came from the magic desert were all extremely strong. Modric didn't want to clash with such a powerful organization. Right at this moment, a few obviously powerful auras spread over. The owners of these auras had deliberately released their auras in order to warn the crowd of their arrival. Then a huge carpet fell from above their heads. There were 7 people standing on the flying carpet. Everyone knew one of them. It was Sivir. After the 7 people got off the flying carpet, it turned into a cloak and returned to the back of one of them. Malone led the way to the people from the association. Hello, I'm Malone, also the manager of the gathering area. Hello, we're from North America, the supernatural organization. There's such a powerful supernatural organization in North America. Malone sounded like he was asking, but also like he was doubting. Perhaps he felt that the supernatural organization was a disguise. Of course, everyone just smiled and didn't say anything. No one had the obligation to answer questions from unrelated people. Everyone, after the battle, there will be a gathering in the gathering area. Would you be interested in joining? We're very tired. We need to rest. Wes tactfully rejected Malone's invitation. Are you here for the Nature Guardian's promise, or the Scarlet Church's mission? Malone asked. Wes's heart jumped. The Nature Guardian's promise? He really didn't know about this. But on the surface, Wes still pretended to be nonchalant. Both. Malone smiled. Since both are available, why reject my invitation? I'm the Nature Guardian's representative. I can provide you with more useful information. Mr. Malone, if you think there's value in cooperating with us, we can choose another time. We really need to rest. After all, this battle isn't easy. They definitely couldn't show impatience now. Wes was such a smart person. How could he let others have the upper hand? Of course, this was a sign of their confidence. They weren't worried that Malone would abandon them. Their strength was there for all to see. Thus, to maximize their benefits, they definitely couldn't be impatient now. The battle was already coming to an end. The spirit beasts either escaped or were killed. Other than the sporadic battles, most spiritualists had basically stopped. Magri Modric glanced at the people from the supernatural organization. He realized that Jolene and Nash were the only people from the supernatural community who had actually acted. The others had more or less attacked, but they looked more like they were having fun and relaxing. For example, the people who left a deep impression on him, Angelit, Gaia, Norma and Heliais. They didn't attack and stayed by West's side. The few people who did it were just casually casting a few spells. How strong was the supernatural organization? But Malone and the others clearly didn't know. The people of the association reorganized themselves a little before bidding farewell to Ma Long and leaving. Malone, are we just letting them leave? It's fine. They're dragging it out because they want more benefits. As long as they can guarantee victory in this battle, I don't mind promising them some benefits as long as they show enough strength. They're not the only powerful supernatural organization in the gathering area. Now isn't the time to care about this, Malone said. If the other organizations are powerful, I'm willing to contact them. The monster army is far stronger than what we see now. Chapter 1939. The next day, Marlon brought the 6 managers to contact West again. Mr. West, you don't seem to be willing to contact us. Can you tell me why? Marlon went straight to the point. Do you have some misunderstanding about us? Or did we do something to make you feel uncomfortable? No, West said. I'm keeping my distance from you because we have different goals. Your goals are very pure and noble, while ours are much more complicated. Our main goal is profit. To West, Marlon and the others looked more like volunteers for a public cause. They were respectable, but not many people would support them. West's words were clear. They were here because there was a profit to be made. They would use their own abilities to accumulate enough merits, and then exchange them for benefits from the Scarlet Church. To put it more bluntly, everyone had different goals. But Mr. West, you haven't even contacted us before. Why are you so sure that we can't pay you enough? Marlon smiled at West. Then what can you give us? Did you know that there used to be 12 nature guardians on this continent? The current guardian is Lord Boyd. Our ancestors slept here. Their remains are still preserved, including their dragon balls, eyes, bones, and hearts, Marlon said. Malone said, if you can help, then Sir Boyd can take out a portion of the dragon guardian's remains as a reward. West couldn't quite accept this deal. It was like Chen Zhao was the president of the supernatural organization. After Chen Zhao passed away one day, The younger generation of the organization would use Chen Zhao's remains as a bargaining chip in order to receive some help. Whether Chen Zhao was willing or not aside, even if he was, West couldn't accept the terms of the deal. This was because there was a moral bottom line. Of course, there was another important reason. They didn't have much desire for dragon materials. After all, they didn't lack dragon materials. Mr. Marlin, we respect the guardian ancestors very much, so we can't accept this deal. West still tried to put it nicely. Mr. West, you're worrying too much. When I was alive, Mr. Boyd didn't casually use the remains of the guardians as a bargaining chip. It was the dying wish of the guardians. They made a promise before they died that they could use their remains as a bargaining chip when necessary, Malone said. Mr. Malone, is there nothing else apart from the remains of the dragons? Malone was surprised to hear West's words. West's words had sounded like he was only interested in profits. Why did he reject the remains of the dragon clan? Could it be that he didn't have enough chips? Malone suddenly looked up at West, then at the association members around him. All of them had the faint aura of the dragon clan. It was very weak, but Malin could sense it. This was mainly because Malone himself possessed the power of the dragon clan. Therefore, he was very sensitive to the aura of the dragon clan. Moreover, the dragon aura on their bodies didn't come from the same dragon race. The dragon clan aura on their bodies was not because of the power bestowed by the dragon clan. If it was the power bestowed by the dragon clan, then the aura would be very dense. However, their auras were extremely weak. The auras on their bodies weren't the power of the dragon clan. Instead, they carried some kind of artifact belonging to the dragon clan. Malone suddenly understood. They had not only the remains of the dragon clan, but also more than one. No wonder they weren't interested in the remains of the dragon clan. They already had the remains of the dragon clan. However, with their strength, they couldn't possibly slay a dragon, right? Could it be that they were hiding their strength? Mr. West, have you participated in a dragon-slaying operation before? Malone asked tentatively. If they had enough people, and had the strength they had displayed last night, it was indeed possible for them to successfully slay a dragon. We have the remains of the dragon clan, but that doesn't mean we've slain a dragon before. We just happened to obtain the remains. Malone wasn't surprised. If they had really slain a dragon before, their strength wouldn't be justified at all. Moreover, the auras on their bodies didn't come from the same dragon race. If they could really kill 2 or more dragons, then their strength would be too terrifying. We once discovered a battlefield of the dragon clan. 3 dragons were fighting each other. We didn't do anything, and waited until the 3 dragons died together. Only then did we retrieve their remains, West said. This lie didn't need any special details, because the difficulty of slaying a dragon was too great. That was why their lie seemed more plausible. Malone nodded. He believed West's words. At least, he felt that most of them were true. However, it was indeed rare for 3 dragons to fight each other. In the end, they even died together. Mr. West, what about the blessing from the guardian? Do you need it? What type of blessing? Blessing was also a type of magic, but it didn't have any specific attribute. In fact, almost every type of magic had a blessing. There were also some special existences that had the power of blessing. For example, this nature's guardian. This kind of existence's blessing was very special. Their blessings would have a special effect. As long as certain conditions are met, you can freely borrow the guardian's power. Since you said that certain conditions have to be met, then it's not free to use. Mr. West, you're worrying too much. This condition refers to the body's condition. After all, even if the dragon race's power is right in front of you, not everyone can withstand it. You're a master magician, so you should understand this, Malone said respectfully. West was still not satisfied. In comparison, he was more willing to accept the conditional lending of power. He was more at ease using the power of equivalent trade, because this power was a trade. After using it, it would be over. There would be no subsequent karma. However, although the blessings that Ma Long spoke of sounded wonderful, in reality, it was a form of karma. In the future, if the nature's guardian needed it, it might be able to use this to recruit him. It would be difficult for him to refuse. He might not even be able to. Mr. Malone, let's talk about something more practical. Although we're not the best in the industry, we hope for a fair trade. You can treat us as mercenaries. You can give us a good price, and we'll act according to the price. Chapter 1940. Malone was speechless at the sly old fox West. West was too shrewd. If he wanted something good, he wanted something tangible. Malone took out a horn that looked like it had been made from a goat's horn. "This is the dragon horn," Malone said. Malone said, "As long as you blow the dragon's horn, you can release dragon's might. However, to blow the dragon's horn, you must have powerful magic power." West's eyes lit up. This was good stuff. It was a magic tool that only dragons could make, and a dragon could only make one in its lifetime. Although it wasn't unique, there were only a handful of them in the outside world. The dragon clan would only give the dragon horn to a human they recognized. If you can blow the dragon's horn, then this will be your reward. West lowered his head in thought. The dragon horn was indeed very precious. He had indeed heard of the dragon horn. However, it wasn't suitable for most spiritualists. After all, most spiritualists couldn't use the dragon horn in battle. The dragon horn wasn't meant to be used in battle either. "We agree," Gaia said as she walked in. Wes looked at Gaia. Gaia only gave him a look. Actually, Wes was hesitating because if this deal was made, he would undoubtedly be the one to use the dragon horn. This would make him feel like he was abusing his power and making everyone in the association work for him. West had always been a very disciplined person. He wasn't willing to do something that would leave behind a lot of criticism. Malone looked at Gaia. He noticed that Gaia's dragon aura was slightly stronger. He guessed that Gaia might have some powerful dragon magic tool. Malone wasn't sure if Gaia's words counted, so he looked at West. West thought for a moment and said, "Since our people think this deal is okay, let's work together." Malone was very straightforward. He tossed the dragon horn to West. "Can we talk about the specifics now?" Malone asked. West nodded. "Of course. Since we've decided to work together, we naturally need to know the exact situation. There has always been a nature guardian on this wild continent since ancient times. Furthermore, every nature guardian has been a member of the Dragon Clan," the Dragon Clan explained. Malone slowly explained. "The nature guardian's main responsibility is to maintain the natural balance of this place. At the same time, they are also responsible for guarding this place against unnatural forces." "Those spirit beasts last night, are they the unnatural powers you spoke of?" "They are the four main enemies of the nature guardians. The undead elemental army was created by an ancient shaman on the African continent. That shaman wanted to pursue immortality, and one day, he thought that he had successfully created immortality. Then he cast a spell of immortality on everyone in the tribe. However, this spell of immortality ended in failure. The entire tribe became undead elemental bodies, evil spirits that fused with the elements. Their souls were tortured by the elements all day long. They hated this world and all living beings in this world, so they wanted to assimilate all living beings into undead elemental bodies. The leader of the undead elemental army was that shaman Boila. Ancient Yida's army is also a product of humans. They are twisted creatures created by ancient shamans. Their numbers are huge, and they have no leader. The spirit of vengeance is formed from the living beings killed by humans. It is a huge and terrifying monster. This spirit of vengeance is even able to fight against the nature guardians. Originally, the nature guardian had enough power to resist these unnatural forces, but because of the Scarlet Church's mischief, the nature guardian was listed as a hunting target, causing the nature guardian to be attacked by a large number of spiritualists. In one attack, the nature guardian was ambushed by the vengeful curse spirit when it was fighting against those spiritualists, causing it to suffer severe injuries. Now the nature guardian is in a weakened state. The originally fragile balance has completely lost its stability. The enemies of the nature guardian are stirring, and the most active among them is the spirit beast army. Their numbers are simply too large, so their attacks are unrestrained. From Malone's description, the situation was far more serious than what West had imagined. In addition, The evil cultists are also getting restless, trying to cause even more chaos. From what you're saying, the current situation is already very serious. It's indeed very grim, but it's not entirely without good news. The 4 enemies of the Nature Guardian aren't her companions, and they are also fighting amongst themselves. Moreover, although they know that the Nature Guardian is injured, they don't know the extent of her injuries. Then how serious are the injuries of the Nature Guardians? Malone muttered to himself for a long time, hesitating whether he should tell the truth or not. After all, he didn't completely trust West and the others. However, after thinking for a long time, Malone finally decided to tell the truth. Currently, the Nature Guardians are unable to fight. There are only 2 ways. What are they? One way is to stall for time. 10 years. The Nature Protector needs 10 years to recover. You're saying that we have to guard this place for 10 years? West shouted. If that's the case, I'm sorry, but we can't help you. West stuffed the dragon horn back into Malone's hands. Don't worry, Mr. West. I've said that there are 2 ways. Stalling for time is also unacceptable to us. For dragons, 10 years is a short time. But for humans, 10 years is too long, Malone said unhurriedly. That's why there's another way, which is to eliminate a certain number of enemies. Isn't that the old way? Just fight and it'll be over in no time, West said nonchalantly. It's not the same. The reason why the Nature Guardian is the Nature Guardian is because while he protects the wildlands, he also receives the power of the wildlands. After killing those enemies, they will return to nature and eventually return to the Nature Guardian's body. This way, the Nature Guardian's injuries can be healed quickly. As long as we kill enough enemies, the Nature Guardian can recover in an extremely short time. Chapter 1941. You have to give us a specific number, West said. If you only say that we have to kill a lot of them, we won't have an idea at all. I don't like this kind of battle without an exact number. At least one of the Nature Guardian's 4 main enemies has to be eliminated for the Nature Guardian to recover completely. We can't do that, West rejected directly. Even if he accepted Malone's reward, it didn't mean that Malone could ask for an exorbitant price. Moreover, Malone's request was indeed too much. According to Marlin's explanation, the Nature Guardian's 4 main enemies were the Spirit Beast Army, the Undead Elemental Army, Guyita's Army, and the Spirit of Vengeance. The 4 of them had close combat strength, and with the Spirit of Vengeance as the standard, the Spirit of Vengeance's strength was equivalent to the Nature Guardian's. In other words, they would have to face an enemy that was at the level of a dragon with the title of Nature Guardian. This was too much. West knew the supernatural organization's strength very well. Putting aside Chen Zhao, the people below the president weren't weak, but they weren't at the top either. Even if they all worked together, they wouldn't be able to fight against a dragon. Take Gaia for example. She had the bloodline of a dragon. Ever since her awakening, her bloodline had been increasing in purity. But even now, she was barely at the level of a young dragon. She was only at the level of a Betos. A young dragon and an adult dragon were 2 completely different concepts. Gaia was also the strongest in the supernatural organization. Moreover, the difference in strength wasn't something that could be made up with a few people. It was like a special forces soldier and a kid. Their strength, speed, and combat power were only 10 times different. But could 10 kids beat a special forces soldier? Of course, from the current situation, if they really wanted to accept this mission, the Spirit Beast Army was undoubtedly the most suitable. After all, the Spirit Beasts won purely through numbers. Their individual strength was within the acceptable range of the supernatural organization. Moreover, the supernatural organization was most confident in dealing with such a large number of enemies. However, since they were able to rival the other 3, then their numbers were probably terrifying. Quantitative change could be transformed into qualitative change. Mr. West, I feel that you can try the Spirit Beast Army, Malone said. The Spirit Beast Army isn't always gathered together. They are all led by Chief Class Spirit Beasts. Roughly 1 Chief Class Spirit Beast will be born out of every 10,000 spirit beasts. Their habits are very similar to wild beasts, and they will often have conflicts with each other over territory. Hence, you don't need to deal with the entire spirit beast army at once. You just need to wipe them out one by one. Marlin paused for a moment before continuing. Also, I can provide you with information about the spirit beasts. I still can't. Your conditions are too much, West said. Mr. West, we can arrange for a few spiritualists who are not weak to work with you. A rather strong spiritualist? We don't like to team up with strangers. Malone had never met someone so difficult to deal with. If it weren't for the fact that they were powerful, Malone would have flipped the table. Marlin continued, Mr. West, the people I've arranged are not weak, but they are also willing to listen to your orders. They will obey any order you give them unconditionally. Are these people your subordinates? No, but they have already made a promise. Hence, they don't object to my arrangements. Wes was a little puzzled. They weren't Marlin's subordinates, yet they weren't weak and would obey Marlin's orders unconditionally. Ordinary spiritualist organizations might not be willing to work with strangers, let alone listen to the orders of strangers. Could it be that these spiritualists had something on them that Marlin could use against them? Hence, they were being threatened by him? If that was the case, he would have to be even more careful. Mr. West, I believe that our cooperation should be based on sincerity. My request will be lowered again and again. All right, but before that, I need to know who the people you've arranged for me are, and how strong they are. I don't want to bring a bunch of burdens with me. Don't you agree? Of course, no problem, Mr. Sonnenfeld. When do you plan to return the money you owe us? Sonnenfeld's expression was very ugly as he looked at the people in front of him. I've already applied for bankruptcy protection. I don't have the money to return it to you. Sonnenfeld could only hide in his daughter's house and rely on her to live. This had saved him a lot of trouble. During this period, the money he owed through proper channels couldn't do anything to him. However, the money he owed did not all come from proper channels. For example, the person in front of him was from Saint and Finance Company. Of course, they were also a usury group. Sonnenfeld had borrowed $3 million, but after a year, it had turned into $5 million. Usury represented huge profits, so it was inevitable that it would appear in any country or region. Of course, usury was not allowed or protected by the law. However, usury did not rely on the law to collect debts. They used more direct methods. Mr. Sonnenfeld, this is not a reason for you to reject us. The man with the small mustache standing in front of Sonnenfeld smoked a cigar. When he looked at Sonnenfeld, his eyes flickered with coldness. I don't like violence, but that doesn't mean I won't use it. I communicate with most of my clients peacefully, but if they don't listen to me, I don't mind using unconventional methods to get back the money that belongs to us. Just then, the door opened and Demi walked in. When she saw her father and a few strangers, her face sank. Who are you? Get out of my house, or I'll call the police. The man with the small mustache looked at Demi. Miss Demi, I'm the person in charge of Saint and Finance Company. This is my business card. We have some financial disputes with your father. But if you call the police, the situation will become very complicated. Dad, how much do you owe them? Demi looked at her father. Sonnenfeld lowered his head, unwilling to answer the question. $5 million. The man with the small mustache answered for Sonnenfeld. Demi's face darkened. $5 million? Even if she sold herself, she wouldn't be able to get that much money. You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support. And don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.